you can pretty much put 2 and 2 together that while Taylor Braid will be there as the director of football recruiting because it is signing day today, it's going to be about Chris Kleiman and him and the expectation, multiple reports out there, of him stepping down and retiring from college football and Colin Klein taking over. I think part of this is going to be what the legacy of Chris Kleiman is in taking over for Bill Snyder Part D. The conversation is going to be, how it ended, how good Colin Klein can be. He was coveted. Is Kansas State trying to strike while the iron's hot? Is Chris Kleiman just simply tired of the college football constant revolving door that is your current roster and the rosters of every other college football team out there? With the portal opening up on, January 2nd, back-to-back years where you're hoping, really 3 years in a row if you want to go that route, but back-to-back years when you're talking about the college football playoff, back-to-back years you were hoping to make the college football playoff. And this year, obviously, it didn't come near what they were hoping. Out of the 3 local schools, we talked about it and gave our opinions on it. I think Kansas State was the most disappointing. Now, maybe that's based on my own expectations of what I thought Kansas State could be this year and picking them to be playing in the Big 12 championship game. Did not have BYU in the Big 12 championship game. Thought Texas Tech had a pretty decent chance of getting there with all of the dudes they went out and recruited, and brought into Labach to play there for the Red Raiders. But Kansas State was a team that 6-6 is underwhelming for how they got here, the leads, the blown leads, the games that were lost. And Chris Kleiman was very emotional after the Utah loss. He was brought to tears for about 30, 35 seconds of not saying anything. Gene Taylor came up on stage there where Chris Kleiman was talking and saying, hey, we've got your back, we're here. Chris Kleiman saying, I think I've earned some respect around here. And maybe that was Chris Kleiman knowing that this was the last run for him, and that Utah loss or that win could have been one sort of hurrah. You win that one, you beat Colorado, you've got a huge win there that you go out on and you go, what could have been, it sucks, but, time to hang it up. Because last year, he got emotional after a loss that knocked them out of the college football playoff discussion. They had one loss on the season, getting ready to play Houston. They lost to Houston with a 9-point lead in the fourth quarter. That was pretty devastating. That was your second loss. But it wasn't the end of the season for K-State because they had upstart Arizona State that's having a good season, but you should beat them.
Yeah.
You're playing them at home, and they fell behind 24-0 in that game. They end up losing. Chris Kleiman, knowing that the college football playoff and the Big 12 championship wasn't a part of the conversation anymore, he was very emotional. 2 days later, on Monday, this interaction, we play this clip number 1. This interaction happened at the press conference while he was previewing the next game, but this was the Monday press conference 2 days after K-State had been eliminated from the college football playoff and the Big 12 race after losing to Arizona State at home in back-to-back losses. 2 days after, he was pretty emotional after a loss against Arizona State. Clip number 1.
I want to clear this thing up first because we've been getting a rumor that you're going to retire. I just want to put that out there so you shoot it down.
I don't know where you got that from, Fitz. I haven't said that to anybody. Okay.
Okay.
Especially if I'd announced it here and he's sitting here. I'd have had more issues than that, plus my wife's not in town. I'd be really in trouble.
So that was Gene Taylor in the background that said, if that's the case, I'd be pissed. And I should have turned it up there. But trying to find the clip, first of all, then finding it. But at the time we I didn't really think much of it because I'm like, why would he be retiring at this point? He's got Avery Johnson another year. They've got some support here.
He was 57 at that point. I think he's 58 now.
Right. Well, that's typically how the years. If last year he was 57 at that point, I think he'd be 58 now.
Benjamin Button, come on now. That
dog
was a
years,
real
maybe,
thing.
maybe dog years. Who knows? But he's 56 now. This man is amazing. But at the time, I remember thinking, why? I mean, I know there's some things going on that he had talked about, some personal things, but like retiring, stepping away, is he really ready to do that? But then how he said that, it wasn't, Fitz, I'm not going anywhere. Fitz, I'm not retiring. It was, I haven't told anybody that. Which is an interesting way of saying, no, I don't know where you heard that. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not retiring. But it was, I haven't told anybody that. It's a different answer. And we said, let's just keep it on the back burner if something happens. And now a year later, we are talking about Chris Kleiman, 13 months later, 12 and a half months later, because that was November 18th. So 12 and a half months later, he's reportedly going to retire in a press conference today. And the expectation is that Colin Klein will then take over.
Penn State is punching air, seeing how easy the transition is for K-State. Penn State is sitting here going, how do they do this? Isn't it supposed to be a 6-month-long, drawn-out process where everyone turns you down?
We couldn't get the Indiana coach, the Missouri coach, the Nebraska coach, the BYU coach to come here.
The
at
crumble
Penn State.
cookie guy.
Our entire coaching prospect list is crumbling right before our eyes. And James Franklin is trolling us at his press conference signing day today.
Oh, that's weird.
You didn't see that?
Oh, this is the Penn State area code.
Weird.
Let's go ahead and
go ahead and answer that. Yeah. Yes, you'll take the job.
I'll take the job.
Yes. By the way, if you haven't seen what James Franklin did today at the press conference for the signing day for Virginia Tech, he served crumble cookies to everybody.
Oh my gosh.
They had crumble cookies for everybody there.
Good for him. Good for him.
So amazing. I'm here for the petty. I'm not a big James Franklin fan, but here for the petty. So we'll see what the future is of K-State with Colin Klein. I do wonder what the reaction from the fan base is, if they were also ready to sort of move on. Because, I mean, look, Chris Kleiman a couple of years ago brought a Big 12 championship back to Manhattan. And if the college football, we're talking about two teams locally, if the college football playoff had been 2 years earlier, would have had a spot in the playoffs. If the college football playoff started in 22 instead of 24, K-State would have made the playoffs by winning the Big 12. If it started in 23 instead of 24, Missouri would have made the playoffs as an at-large bid.
Yeah.
It did not. Neither of them are in the playoffs. But Chris Kleiman has had a couple of shots where you thought they might be. And I wonder if last year he really was thinking about retirement at that time, and there was sort of some rumors circulating of something he might be discussing, but thought, I got Avery coming back. I got a pretty damn good team coming back. We'll be one of the favorites to win the Big 12 next year, which means we got a chance to go to the college football playoff next year. I'm going to coach at least 2025, and we'll see what happens then, and we'll see if the fire's still there. And if I feel next year the way I feel now, then that might be the more appropriate time to move on by giving it one more run to see if we make the college football playoff. They obviously don't. They're 6-6. Colin Klein is a hot candidate. Also a coach, like you said, also a coach that people wanted. USF looked like he was going to hire him. He was talked about one of the main candidates for Oklahoma State before they hired Eric Norris from North Texas, who has, head coaching experience. And Colin Klein obviously has the history there in Manhattan. The K-State offense has regressed since Colin Klein left. Now, maybe that's personnel, quarterback, things like that. But I would have loved to see, what Colin Klein would do with Avery. We'll see next year if that's the case. But K-State went from 37th in offense to 10th in offense in the 2 years that Colin Klein was the OC. And the 2 years since, they're 49th and now 79th in offense. That's the hope with Colin Klein returning. And a younger, energetic guy, does he kill it on the recruiting trail? Does it energize the NIL funds? Does it energize the alumni and the boosters to say, prodigal son's returning. He's going to be the next head coach. This is a young guy that's going to be here for the next 20, 25 years. So let's reinforce everything we can with him to get him off to the start that will get this thing rolling. Let's give him the arsenal to go and win, because this is a guy that a lot of people wanted, and maybe in a couple of years, if he goes to USF and he starts killing it, and then, another, like an SEC program opens up and then hires him, like, oh, that sucks. If Kentucky would have hired John Sumrall 2 years ago, they'd have John Sumrall. Instead, Sumrall went to Florida. That's a guy that went to UK. You don't want to go down the same route if that's the case with Colin Klein. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk with Derek Young, publisher of KSO on 3 Sports, K-State Online. We'll talk with him about what's going on and what the latest is. And Chris Kleiman reportedly going to retire, and Colin Klein is reportedly expected to take the job while, by the way, coaching A&M as the OC during the college football playoff. We'll talk about that coming up next. All right, folks, if you're out there, one touchdown can change everything. You know that. You know it. Multiple touchdowns can change everything, too. Maybe it changes your life. Who knows? But the crowd, the momentum, the game itself, it never gets old, and you can feel that same rush with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, where every touchdown can bring you closer to cashing in. Missouri, folks, you're cashing in, too. You certainly can do that. And with DraftKings Sportsbook, all the action is in your hands. First touchdowns, anytime touchdowns, live bets, every play, every snap. Every single game matters. You know that, especially in the NFL. Every game matters. Every game's going to matter the rest of the way for the Kansas City Chiefs. We know that. And by the way, if you haven't checked it out, Missouri folks, you want to talk about a pretty awesome boost. If the Chiefs or the Texans gain 1 yard of offense in the game, DraftKings is boosting your $50 bet to plus 100. So you bet $50, and if a yard is gained, they're going to give you $50. You take away 100. That's pretty good at DraftKings. They're just giving you 50. Let's be honest, they give you $50. But also, if you're a new customer, bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $200 in bonus bets instantly. When your team hits the end zone, you could hit the payout. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code 810WHB. That's code 810WHB. Bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, Kansas only. Eligibility and restrictions apply on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Michael Darcy. Let's bring on Derek Young, K-State Online publisher, On 3 Sports, joining us here in the zone. Derek, welcome into the show. How's your morning?
It's pretty busy, but I won't say all the way unexpected.
Okay.
Obviously, it broke today, but we were starting to put things in motion to plan for this probably about 12 to 14 hours ago. It became clear, I think, in the waning hours of last night that this was unfolding, and it was more, but at that point, didn't have enough to go with it, and was also pinching myself. It's like, is this really happening?
Yeah, I look, it's the world of Twitter today that when I saw the report, I then had to make sure it wasn't a fake. You know, like, okay, let me see. And then when others like yourself start weighing in and saying, yes, I can confirm this, yes, Colin Klein, I'm like, okay, well, that's different. You mentioned like in the last 12 to 14 hours, I wonder if it's been in the last 12 to 14 hours heating up. Do you have an idea, and maybe more reporting, maybe today at 4 o'clock in the press conference we'll get a better idea, but do you have an idea as to how long this has maybe been on the mind of Chris Kleiman, how long it's sort of been in the works to a degree of a transition from him to Colin Klein?
Yeah, I think in an ideal world of transition and succession plans, I think they probably felt like all along, even when Klein left to take the Texas A&M offensive coordinator gig, I think everyone felt like, man, it would be perfect to just go from Kleiman to Klein. But once Klein leaves and goes to College Station, that becomes a little bit trickier, right? The timing has to be right. The timing is a lot easier if he would have just stayed at K-State. That's nothing against Klein for leaving. He felt like for career aspirations and purposes that he needed that experience. But once he did that, that just made that succession and transition plan a little bit trickier to navigate because, like, the worlds have to align, and it did. So I think in the back of their minds, this is how everyone probably always wanted it to unfold, but it's kind of wild that it's still aligned, the stars still aligned that way, even with Klein elsewhere. In terms of a Kleiman retirement, I think he's probably been considering it for a bit. I think he had some personal adversity that he was working through with, family members and stuff like that last year. At one time, the college, landscape changing a little bit. He's had a little bit more disdain for that than he did in the past. So I was like, I think he was always maybe in the back of his mind as well, thinking, when is it time for me to hang it up? But I mean, I think as of like 2 weeks ago, he was still intending on coaching next year. It was really putting things in motion and plans together of how to fund the roster, what they needed from a coaching standpoint, if they were going to have to make changes, what the needs were on the roster. I think he was planning all that as of about a week or two ago. But I think just before the regular season finale against Colorado is when he ultimately made that choice and obviously communicated that with Gene Taylor. And I think in that conversation, they're like, all right, let's get Colin Klein on the horn.
Yeah, visiting with Derek Young, I went back and found from a year ago on November 18th, 2 days after the Arizona State loss, that ultimately knocked them out of the Big 12 hunt and the college football playoff, and after an emotional press conference after that Arizona State loss. But 2 days later on a Monday, he was asked by Tim Fitzgerald and asked, there are rumors circulating. I got to ask you, are you thinking about retirement? And Chris Kleiman's answer was not, no, I'm staying. He said, I don't know where you got that. I haven't told anybody that. Which is an odd way of saying no. I haven't told anybody that. And so I wonder if this has been something like almost in a year or in the past year that he's been really contemplating. And then maybe, to me, it adds a little more context to that Utah postgame. That maybe he had already thought about retiring, and that would have been one real nice feather to win that one. But then the loss, and then maybe the emotions, Derek, of not wanting to be remembered as a guy that, went 6-6 in the last year, knowing he was going to retire. And I feel like I've earned some respect around here. I think it adds some context to that press conference, looking back now 2 weeks ago to him now retiring.
Yeah, and maybe he knew and just hadn't told anyone at that point, that Utah press conference, because I think it would explain some of the emotion and some of the statements that he made at that, because – And that was just a football game that kind of was conducive to those
Yes.
post-game, press conferences. Because on the flip side, Kyle Whittingham cried after that game too. So that was just one of those
Yeah, good
football
call.
games. But everything that we're talking about today probably added to that. I think retirement has been on the table for him probably for a year or two. Even before a lot of this other stuff came in and likely contributed to it, he was always someone that didn't want to be one of those coaches that coached into very old age.
58 is still like a pup in college football, though. I mean, that's
But he didn't want to be that guy ever.
Yeah, it is really surprising in today's day and age. You mentioned some of the reasons that might be there, and I do wonder, as coaches that came up the ranks in the older school of college football, that the grind eventually just wears on you of what it is now. Like, I almost feel like it's a young man's game, and 58 is still young, but it's a young man's game in terms of, like, a Colin Klein, where these guys have been in the coaching ranks and recruiting, really getting their, feet wet in the NIL era, in the transfer portal era. So that's sort of what they know and how to navigate it, as opposed to everything being brand new for some of the coaches that have been around a while. And maybe it's just he's gotten worn down of a lifelong of coaching. He's made a ton of money in his career, worked his butt off, and he's almost 60 years old and said, it's time to just enjoy myself and not go through this and recruit all the time. I just wonder how much the landscape of college football and still the unknown of what is ahead of us 2, 3, 4 years from now is a big part of Chris Kleiman saying, I might have been thinking about it, but if I'm thinking about it, then I've already done it.
Absolutely. And I think, he's voiced his frustrations for about a year now of what college football kind of is and what he likes. He loves football. He's a ball coach. That's really what he is at the core. But everything that else that has kind of came into the picture when it comes to the college landscape, I think there was a while where he was rolling with the punches and says, yep, this is a sport. I'm in it. I'll do it. And I think in the last year and a half, I think there's a little bit more stubbornness with him in some of this, and I think he knew that. And especially the one thing that it really grinds his gears the most was the roster limits. When you could have 130 to 150 players, all these walk-ons, and basically had to cut all of them and get down to, what was it, the number 105,
105,
I believe.
yeah.
That is the single worst thing that ever happened in college football in his eyes. And the few days that he had to take and cut about 30 players, and he is one of the coaches in college football still to this day that has a phenomenal relationship on a personal level with almost every single one of his players. And he calls those few days where he had to cut 25 to 30 walk-ons, essentially, the worst day of his coaching career. Yeah. And I don't know that he ever got past that either. So I think that plays a factor. I think there's also an unspoken factor here, too, is that, he's had a really good coaching tenure at Kansas State. He proved to everyone and helped Kansas State prove to everyone that someone other than Bill Snyder can win big at Kansas State. He won a Big 12 championship in 2022. So that's a pretty good legacy to have. And he knows, and I think in the back of his mind, to sustain that legacy, since the last 3 years have been solid but probably underachieving based on everyone else's expectations for what these teams should have been. To sustain that legacy, you don't want to be the guy that kind of gets in between Colin Klein and Kansas State, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's basically solidified his legacy by doing this because he paved the path for Kansas State to get the prodigal son back in Manhattan, so to speak.
Derek Young is our guest, and yeah, the 2022 Big 12 championship, bringing that back for the first time in a decade, but also the unfortunate timing. Two local schools, if the college football playoff had been around earlier, would have made the playoff. In 2022, Chris Kleiman would have taken a team to the college football playoff by winning the Big 12, and unfortunately, it didn't start for 2 more years. Last year, or the year before, I should say, Missouri would have been an at-large bid if it was a 12-team playoff, but it wasn't. So there's 2 local schools that didn't get opportunities because of the delayed sort of start of that. Is there, Derek, a couple of more, and I'll let you go because I know you got a lot of stuff going on and getting ready for this press conference and some other reporting and stuff. But is there, and if there is, skepticism of Colin Klein without head coaching experience? Is that sort of expected to a degree without a head coach, or is this kind of viewed as this is a home run? It doesn't matter if he's been a head coach or not. This guy is a superstar ready to go, and whoever gives him the keys to the program is going to be able to reap the fruits of that work.
I think it's normal for maybe some outsiders looking in, especially since I think there's still a little bit of an adage about Kansas State being a really tough place to win. I don't know that that's technically as true as it once was. I think Kansas State's a much better job than it used to be, and maybe enough people haven't given them credit for that, and it's because of guys like Bill Snyder and Chris Kleiman have made it a better job than it once was. But the folks that still believe that and see that they're hiring someone without head coaching experience, I can understand why they might come to that conclusion. What I would say is Bill Snyder didn't have any head coaching experience either. So
Right.
that's one area to go. And like if it wasn't going to be Kansas State, Colin Klein was going to be head coach somewhere else. So I think the industry at large thinks Colin Klein is ready to get his shot to be a head coach. And you can't get head coach experience without first getting an opportunity to be a head coach. Kirby Smart, head coach of Georgia, didn't have head coaching experience. Dan Lanning, head coach at Oregon, didn't have head coaching experience. Ryan Day, the head coach at Ohio State, didn't have head coaching experience. It's interesting if you were to kind of cycle through and think about the best head coaches in college football right now. I know there's Lane Kiffin, but there's a good chunk of them that were hired as coordinators and didn't have head coaching experience. So that's something to consider. But in Manhattan and in the Kansas State world, Colin Klein is, he's king.
Yeah.
And for them to get him as their head coach, there is not going to be any concerns whatsoever. And it's one of those things, too, like maybe he doesn't work out. You never know, right? But you have to be the one to try it almost, right? For him to fail, he could fail, but it better be you where he fails. Because if you think back, Kansas State has had this opportunity both in football and basketball before, and the stars never aligned. They never got Brad Underwood, who played and coached there, even though that there was chances, and they kind of stubbed their foot. They never got Brent Venables, who played and coached there. So it's like, is this going to be the third time in a row where you don't get that prodigal son back and be that team that tests him as a head coach? So they get this opportunity where they didn't before with Brent Venables and Brad Underwood.
So a follow-up to that then, real quick. Is there a chance then behind the scenes that the process for Chris Kleiman in retiring was maybe sped up a little bit from Gene Taylor, or a conversation of, look, if you are thinking about this, then we need to make a decision soon because Colin Klein is heading to South Florida if he doesn't come here. So what do you want to do? And is there a chance that this was sped up with South Florida's interested in Colin Klein?
There's a chance. Now, with their relationship and how close they are, I don't know if he got that nudge or pressure from Gene Taylor. I don't think Gene Taylor was going to ever force or put the pressure on Chris Kleiman to leave. I think he was always going to have it be his decision. His buyout also constituted that it was essentially going to always have to be his decision. But Chris Kleiman is no dummy, and I think part of that Utah press conference after the game was also because he was asking for respect, is he was well aware that people wanted him out and Klein in. Now, because he may have had his legacy in mind and may have known that he was already thinking about it, I think himself might have put the pressure on himself once he realized that because I don't think if Chris Kleiman chooses not to retire, I think Colin Klein today is probably the head coach at South Florida, as you laid out.
Yep, I do too. I don't believe the reports of South Florida's hired Brian Hartline, the guy that they've wanted, number one the entire time, and I don't believe that.
I was told that Klein and USF were deep down the process when almost at the last hour, Kansas State said, "Hey, you ready to come home?"
Not that there, Derek Young is our guest. Not that there wasn't. Last one, and we'll let you go. Not that there wasn't, support and excitement around Chris Kleiman, but with the prodigal son returning and Colin Klein, is there an expected sort of renewed excitement now? Some boosters, alumni opening up more of the pocketbooks to send Colin Klein's way.
Absolutely. This will be the most positively approved hire perhaps in Kansas State history at the time that it happens, right? If they knew what Bill Snyder was going to be, they'd be stoked when that hire was made as well. But on the surface, the day of, like the announcement, this will be the most positively approved and received hire in Kansas State athletics history. And I think out of all the people in this world, the person that could probably command the most money from an NIL coaching salary pool and everything like that is Colin Klein at Kansas State.
Derek Young, KSO on 3 Sports. Great reporting, man. Appreciate it as always. You joining us as well. I know you're going to be busy. That 4 o'clock press conference, we'll get a lot more answers as well. Derek, thank you for taking some time out today to talk with us, man.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. There's Derek Young. Great stuff from him. You can go read that at K-State Online. He's got the report up there about Colin Klein heading to Kansas State, heading to Manhattan to be the next head coach, as a 4 o'clock press conference with the expectations that Chris Kleiman will be stepping down and retiring, and Colin Klein will be taking over as head coach. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Meet Mitch, beat Mitch. 913-3810810. Caller number 8 will play for a gift card to Meet Mitch if Michael Darcy can beat Mitch Benjamin in some picks for this weekend. We do that coming up next. Men out there, if you are suffering from erectile dysfunction, then this is a rough time to have that. With the holidays here and the closeness that happens with the family, with significant others, and it can add stress to what is already, a stressful time in people's lives. And if that is something you are dealing with, then there is no reason to wait around and not get this thing figured out. Heartland Men's Health is the spot for you. Maybe you've tried the pills or the herbals and they have failed. And if that has happened, Heartland Men's Health has treatments when that takes place. In fact, they have treatments with success rates well over 90%. Heartland Men's Health is successfully treating men in the Kansas City area. Don't wait any longer. Don't wait a month, sometimes years. Men will wait before they go and seek treatment. Schedule a consult with Heartland Men's Health today. Your initial visit is only $99, includes a medical consult with a licensed medical provider, a T and PSA test, and if medically advised, you get a test dose. And if the test dose doesn't work in the office or visit, it's free and expert staff with 3 locations to serve you. Overland Park, Independence, between Blue Springs and Lee Summit, and North Kansas City. Call them today, 844-447-6600. Tell them you heard about it right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, 844-447-6600, or visit heartlandmenshealth.com. All right, hanging out on this Wednesday edition of the show. Very busy. The coaching carousel continues to churn. For K-State, it looks like it lasts about 5 minutes for the coaching carousel. Mitch Benjamin is hanging out with us. Meet Mitch. His Nittany Lions continue to be on the search. The Lions continue to be on the prowl for a coach.
They are crumbling as we speak.
I felt so bad.
That's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, you know. It just
He
it
brings
just
us
is.
in food. I'm eating it as the last thing I said before I got off air was making fun of Penn State. So I felt so bad. Like,
You did
hey,
not.
Thanks for the food. No,
No, you didn't. You told me before.
I didn't
hey,
feel that
when-
bad.
I'm going to make sure that Mitch is here when I say this about.
We deserve it. We
Penn
deserve
State.
it.
It's this whole coaching cycle is incredibly fascinating with all the people that are staying, and Chris Kleiman is now retiring. Mitch Benjamin is hanging out with us, and I've got a Philly cheesesteak in front of me, or just a cheesesteak. It doesn't have. It's not Philly. There ain't nothing
This is
Philly
a
about
Kansas
this. I was gonna
City
say
cheesesteak.
this is a Kansas City cheesesteak. What is? I tasted it, and my mouth is still singing. Right now, my tonsils have been tickled, as Andy Reid would say.
It's
This is
special
amazing.
because it's Booth Creek Wagyu.
Oh my God.
So it's an elevated Kansas City Meat Mitch cheesesteak.
Oh my goodness. This thing is phenomenal.
do you want to
Sterling.
know how fast I ate it?
Well, I know how fast
You
you
did
eat.
wolf that thing.
Dude, it was so good. You couldn't put it down. Once you pick it up, I challenge someone. Once you pick it up, you're not putting it down. You're doing the two-hand hold until it's gone. You're not putting. If it hits a plate, someone in your party is going to take it from you. It is too. I thought he was going to take it from me.
This thing.
I thought
yeah.
Luke was going to take it. I thought everyone was.
Michael, did you? give
Sandy
it,
was in there.
Have you given it a taste yet? Okay. Well,
I haven't had the chance to yet.
it's going to be gone by the time you get back there, but that's okay. Don't worry. People that aren't working on the show will make sure they come here and get some.
Kansas City
Just joking, everybody.
cheesesteaks by Meat Mitch is the new thing. You know how New York Strip stole the Kansas City Strip? They just said, we're calling it a New York Strip now. We're like,
Yeah.
that's not how this works. We had it first.
Right.
And bleep them. But what we're doing is, yeah, sure, Philly had the cheesesteak first, but we made it better. Okay?
Yeah.
This is the better version.
Yeah.
It is the Kansas City cheesesteak.
So we take a cheesesteak, make it better, and then we invent burn ends, and everybody else tries to copy. So we either start it or make it better.
That's right.
I
I
feel
like
like
that.
that's what we do with the barbecue. It's Wagyu Wednesdays.
Yes.
So this is the cheesesteak on the menu all the time, or is it just a Wednesday specialty?
It's a Wednesday specialty. And then I think we have it from 2 to 6. For
Yeah, with
happy
the
hour.
mini.
Yeah,
the
mini one.
This is not a mini one, right?
No,
this is
no, that's a big boy.
this is a
thing is
mini one.
thick.
This is a mini one because I got a half, and that ain't mini there as well.
That is
Oh,
thick.
my goodness, dude! Every Tuesday night, the geeks who drink 7 to 9 o'clock, and Christmas Eve opening at 10 o'clock in the morning at Meet Mitch. Family was in town, in-laws from Louisville, and he comes every time he gets in town. Barbecue. Said, well, I know we're getting Meet Mitch.
I love
We're getting
that.
Meet Mitch. We're getting the competition burn ends. We're getting the beans. We're getting the ribs. We are getting taken care of there at Meet Mitch, and it was awesome stuff. He loved it.
Oh, great. Thank you.
He comes into town, and minimum 2 nights are barbecue. Minimum 2 nights barbecue.
Gotta
And-
do it.
And it was awesome. All right, so we've got our caller. It's Brian, who is our contestant, and Brian, he will be playing on the team with Michael Darcy, against Mitch Benjamin from Meet Mitch, and it's 5 games that we'll pick. And if Michael ties or wins, then Brian wins the gift card. If Mitch wins, then Brian can yell at Michael. Then Michael owes him a gift card. Then Michael has to go buy the gift card to give to Brian.
I like this.
I'll go
like
buy
this
Meat
switch.
No, but you've got to buy the gift card to give to him.
No, Brian has to eat with Michael. They have to eat
Oh,
together.
they gotta go to lunch. Michael will buy your lunch at Meet Mitch. if
And
you
they'll get a
lose.
cheesesteak and have to do the, the spaghetti and meatball. Yeah,
Oh, right, the Lady and the Tramp.
The Lady and the Tramp.
Michael, you the lady or the tramp?
I think you guys are signing me up for something I'm not comfortable with.
Okay, you'll be the tramp. All right, so let's
he's
do
not a
little-
housewife.
Let's do a little Meet Mitch, Beat Mitch, see if Michael can do that. We've got the conference championship games this weekend and also Chiefs and Texans. And those conference championship games you can catch right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB and ESPN Kansas City. Let's troll the ACC. We won't use that one. But we'll start with the Big 12 on Saturday, BYU and Texas Tech. Mitch, we will start with you. What do you think happens with BYU, Texas Tech? Texas Tech 12.5-point favorites here.
Well, I think the Nittany Lions messed with them a little bit, right? Trying to poach the coach.
Ooh.
So I'm gonna take Tech minus the 12.5 because I think we just got them all messed up.
All right.
Wow.
Okay, so yes, he was thinking about taking the Penn State job when he should be preparing for a Big
Right.
12 championship game. That's a good call. Michael?
I got Tech, and I think they're going to cover.
All right.
I
Tech
had
minus
the
12.5.
opposite reason. Same thing that you said, but I thought the opposite of, okay, now they're going to rally. It means more for BYU. I'm not
They're
leaving.
not in the SEC.
You're right. They're not in the SEC. So we have the same thought, but
Get it
different
together,
outcomes.
Blair.
That's intriguing.
Get it together. Georgia, Alabama, down in Hotlanta. It is Georgia, 2.5-point favorites in this one over the Crimson Tide. Tiebreakers could have put this one as Ole Miss, but that's not the case. What do you say, Michael? You got Alabama plus the points, or Georgia taking care of business and covering?
I'll take Alabama plus the points.
Bama plus the 2.5. What do you think, Mitch?
I'm going the other way.
Yeah.
I'm going the other way.
Yes, he's
Bulldogs.
got UGA. He's got UGA there. So there we go. We got one that we're different on, at least. So that's good.
We have a game.
We
got
one
blood.
there. That's right. And the SEC Championship should be a fun one, too. Ohio State and Indiana, just a little matchup of 1 versus 2 in the Big Ten Championship game. The Buckeyes are 4-point favorites. Mitch, who you like?
I don't like them, but I'm going with the Buckeyes. They haunt me.
I like that. Don't like them, but I'll pick them in this particular game. Michael?
I'll take Ohio State, too.
Ohio State, okay. Man.
It is in Indy. It's in Indianapolis.
Those Buckeyes.
Yeah, but it's
tough.
not in Bloomington, so.
Well, but I'm saying you're in the state. You got to fight, protect your home.
Well, if there's one thing we know, Ohio State fans don't travel, so.
They don't. They're not allowed out of Ohio.
That's true. Yeah,
I have ankle bracelets.
they all have it.
spoken like a true Penn State Nittany Lion fan. There you go. I think it's really interesting because it seems like nationally it's like Ohio State, and every time I'm like, I think Indiana's gonna get beat here or get rolled. It's like Kurt Signetti's like, oh really?
Google me.
Yeah,
Google me. Yeah, this is going to be a fascinating one, man. All right, since there's no interest whatsoever in the ACC championship except for let's hope Duke wins so we can have some fun at the ACC's expense of not having a team in the college football playoff, we're going to go with North Texas and Tulane and go with the AAC championship and 2 coaches that have already been hired at a different school. One of them will be making the college football playoff, the winner of this one. North Texas, 2.5-point favorites. And we start with Michael on this one.
I've watched a lot of North Texas football this year.
Sure you have.
I haven't. I'll take North Texas.
North Texas, you've got them and Eric Norris, who's heading to Oklahoma State. So North Texas, what do you think?
I'm going to go with Tulane. I was at the Tulane
Yes.
Ole Miss game. They showed up pretty good. I think they're a good squad.
See, he's got personal experience there, okay? He's got that.
And real analysis,
yes,
too.
Summerall heading to Florida. So you got
And-
you got Florida taking on Oklahoma State.
And a great mascot. Tulane's mascot's awesome.
Oh, yeah?
The Green Wave, whatever
The
it is, I
Green
think it's
Wave.
awesome. And
It's a trivia question. Doesn't end with an S.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
oh, nice.
Love
I
that.
like that. Good job.
Love that.
I also like the fact it's in New Orleans, Louisiana. Tulane, Louisiana.
Yeah.
I like this. Protect your home.
And historically, North Texas fans don't travel, so I have no idea if they do. But we got Mitch is on Tulane, Michael's on North Texas. Chiefs and Texans. For the 78th week in a row, the Chiefs are 3.5-point favorites against the team randomly. Bills, 3.5-point favorites. Broncos, 3.5-point favorites. Colts, 3.5-point favorites. Texans, 3.5-point favorites. We start with you, Mitch. What do you think of Chiefs and Texans? Chiefs giving 3.5 still.
I'm not giving up. I'll die on the sword. I'm going to go Chiefs Nation.
You're going with the Chiefs 3.5. What do you think, Michael?
I have picked the Chiefs every single week, and I'm not doing it this week. Texans are going to win.
Oh, I like that.
The Texans are going to win. All they have to do is cover. You're taking them
gonna win.
outright. Okay, there you go. We'll see. That's 3 games we're different on.
Yeah, that's big.
Love that. This is a fun week. Brian, the games you'll be paying attention to, Georgia, Alabama. Michael's got Bama. The North Texas and Tulane game, Michael is a Green Wave. And the Chiefs and Texans, unfortunately, that Michael's got the Texans. So, but if the Chiefs
I
win,
love how the caller can't choose. I love that the caller's probably just sitting there going, no, Michael. No, Michael.
But if the
You don't
Chiefs-
want that one.
But if the Chiefs win by 3, he still wins. Texas don't have to win.
No,
They
just in
have to
general.
cover the
I just
3.5.
love that in general. We don't allow them to pick, and so they have to sit there yelling on the phone like,
What if he's
"No, I want
on
the
mute?
opposite."
What if he's sitting there going, I wanted BYU, I wanted Georgia, I wanted Indiana, I
will
love
say-
Tulane and the Chiefs. He's 0 for 5 in what I would have gone with.
Not to pump my chest out, we're 2-0.
That is a good point. Well, you're 1-1, but still, doesn't matter.
1-1. Still counts as a win.
1-0-1. So
You've
you're
not
1-0-1.
lost.
You haven't lost.
Michael has yet to lose.
Yeah, you're like hockey and soccer. All right, you have not lost. You've got a couple of ties there, especially soccer there. Mitch, thank you so much as always,
Thank
thank
you.
you for bringing in
Yeah,
the
you bet.
oh my gosh, Wagyu Wednesdays at Meet Mitch. I'm telling you, you will not be sorry by eating this.
not just the cheesesteaks, corn dogs.
Oh, the corn dogs
Jason,
too. I got
corn dogs.
Burn-in corn dogs.
Burn-in corn dogs. I haven't tasted it yet because last time that you brought in the burn-in corn dogs, they were gone by the time I got off the air, and Sterling had inhaled one.
Well, there's no sign of Luke, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
they're still
oh, he's right back there eating a corn dog, of
yeah.
course.
He's got barbecue sauce on his face.
In the mouth right now, the corn dog.
He is
Ridiculous.
tickling that tonsil.
There he is. Mitch, you're the man. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you so much for having me.
There it is,
Appreciate
Mitch Benjamin. Meet Mitch Barbecue. Fantastic spot. Happy hours Monday through Friday, 2 to 6, with the mini Wagyu cheesesteaks available. And Wagyu Wednesday, partnering with the friends over at Booth Creek with the Wagyu and the pepper jack cheese, the grilled peppers, the onions. Awesome. Cynthia Freeland next.
She's done the research.
I measured the big boys' booties for like 2 years.
She's analyzed the data.
If you can keep that big booty down, like if you are a big boy, if you're very tall and you can keep your booty down low, then you are far more successful.
She's crunched the numbers, and the results are clear.
The back of booty isn't as good, as it turns out.
If she picks a dog, she'll have the math to back it up.
It's not like Travis Kelce has done. My dog is very excited about this, just so you know.
It's Cynthia Freeland of NFL Network. Now in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Michael Darcy. We appreciate Mitch Benjamin stopping in, Meet Mitch Barbecue. And I'm not lying when I say this. That is the best cheesesteak I've ever had in my life. And I am a big cheesesteak fan. My goodness. Wagyu beef, the pepper jack cheese, the grilled onions, the peppers, unbelievable. It is the best bite of cheesesteak I've ever had. My God! And now, while we have an amazing bite of cheesesteak, now we get to chew on some NFL conversation with Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. Cynthia, how are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. How's the dog?
He is fantastic. I find myself constantly throughout the day when I'm not there pulling up the doggy cam, the Ring app, and his playpen at home, and just watching him, and then wanting to immediately go home when he starts to whimper, because yesterday and today are the first days that he has been alone in his life. He was born September 25th, so wanting to be there, but it is awesome. He's so cool. The kid's absolutely still in love. So yeah, it's been a blast.
Good.
It's been a fun couple of weeks with the dogs. So yes, thank you for asking. It wasn't a fun Thanksgiving though for those Chiefs fans watching that particular game. It started off amazing, Cynthia. Interception, couple plays later, Chiefs up 7-0. They're going to roll, and they didn't do a whole lot after that. What did you see in that game, and how do you assess this team that's 1-3 in their last 4 games when each week we're sort of talking about, Cynthia, boy, this is a pretty big game that has these implications. Let's see if they can find a way to win, and they keep losing these one-score games, and they've lost 3 of those 4.
Well, I hate to bring up penalties because I know coaches really hammer them, but if you look at the amount of penalties that they were dealing with, you're really kind of shooting yourself in the foot as opposed to letting the Cowboys do that, right? So I got to clean some things up there. And also, I'm always going to talk about O-lines, and it doesn't matter. They could have a decent game, but it needs to be a much better situation when you are in these must-win opportunities. But penalties, to me, just have been daggers.
Did we? It feels like Andy Reid has been a coach that we've talked about penalties a lot throughout his tenure. It's kind of like what they do. Is the difference this year that, and I guess, last year they were winning one-score games and they didn't really have an explosive offense, so I don't know if it's different this year than last year, but it seems and feels different this year, Cynthia, that a holding penalty or an offensive pass interference feels like it ends the drive for the Chiefs. And Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes back in the day, it was third and Mahomes. It didn't matter what the down and distance was.
Right.
And last year he was one of the most efficient and best quarterbacks on third down that we have ever seen in a year. Maybe that's not the case this year. Is it as simple as this Chiefs team doesn't commit a penalty on a drive? They're probably going to be pretty efficient and score some points. If they do, they just don't have the explosiveness to overcome that.
I don't even know if it's just the explosiveness factor. I think it also has a lot to do with, like the marginal and incremental differences between when the defense isn't playing as well, then whatever happens on offense becomes magnified, and vice versa. And the complementary nature of football means, sometimes if your defense is playing great and you have a penalty or two on offense, and then you can get that nice third down, it becomes a mental thing as well. Like your belief that you can get out of third and Mahomes is different when you've seen it happen in a season repeatedly, right? I can't quantify psychology like that, but every single player I've ever spoken to will talk about that, right? The feeling of I go into each game thinking I'm going to win, and I think the Chiefs do go into every game thinking they're going to win. But when you have these little seeds of doubt, they start to sprout into bigger and bigger plans, and then you have, you're in a situation where you're in 3rd and long when you didn't even need to be, right? So it's not even like the defense did something crazy to get you there. It was something where, sure, Quinnen Williams, he's been a great add to the Cowboys. He's had over 5 pressures in all 3 of his starts. That's wonderful. But that is not an entire defense to contend with.
Yeah, Sam McDowell, columnist for the Kansas City Star, has, and it's funny you go to penalties because he's got a column that came out this morning about, we sort of joke and lament, and I had fun on Monday at the expense of Andy Reid, again saying we got to clean some things up. In that, I told my wife Thursday after Thanksgiving, you guys were amazing. I just got to, it's on me. I got to clean some things up. And then on Friday, I wake up and I'm like, look, I'm going to do, look in the mirror. We got to figure some things. I'm going to clean some things up. It's all good. And then on Saturday, I wake up and I say, look, honey, I know you guys killed it on Thanksgiving, but we're going to get around to it, and I'm going to clean some things up. And then on Sunday, it's already clean, and I'm out of the playoffs because I never got around to actually cleaning some things up.
Right.
But to that point, I had some fun at his expense. But Sam McDowell wrote a column this morning about how penalties have been one of the biggest culprits of this season. They've been penalized 10 times or more in 4 games, and they're 0-4. Mm-hmm. But to your point, when you talk offensive line, this really stood out to me. He said in the 6 losses, they have been called for 12 holding penalties. And of those 12 holding penalties, only 5 did they even convert a first down on the drive, let alone score. They only had a first down 5 times in those particular drives in games that they ended up losing by a score. And I just, can you clean up a team that leads the league in holding penalties from week to week, or is that just simply it's part of the personality? It's part of what this team does in passing as often as they do, and maybe it's more difficult to block for Patrick Mahomes. I don't know, but is that something you can just clean up? Like you lead the league in holding penalties. Jawan Taylor leads the league in penalties each and every year. Let's just clean that up, or is that let's just try to overcome that because that is not something we can clean up. Other things we need to clean up around that so we can overcome that.
Both. I think that there's a couple of things here. Number one, when you have changes along the O-line and you're playing with different configurations of players, you make things harder. Jawan Taylor stands furthest from the center, right? Obviously there's another tackle that also does, but he's not standing as close to the center. If you have a different right guard, things are going to look different for the right tackle, and you're going to increase the opportunity or probability that, Trey Smith will be like, hey, man, get back, don't do that, whatever, that kind of thing where you have a different player in there. It's going to change the way the communication flows. And it's a very, we talk about O-line combinations. The fewer times you have to switch around your O-line, the better off teams typically are when it comes to committing penalties like that because they're very used to and they get the chemistry down with each other. So I think part of it is injuries and part of which you can't control, right? You can control injuries like that. And then the other part of it is like you have to be a little bit more disciplined with, you have to overcome that, right? Like you have to make sure that when that does happen, you have another play in the arsenal that feels like one that can get you back on track and not compound the problem by getting you into an even worse situation.
Visiting with Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. The Chiefs have the highest number of plays per drive this year at 7.1. Is that a good thing?
Usually.
Okay. I didn't know if it's a good thing that you've got that many plays, but you've got that many plays per drive because you aren't as explosive as maybe some other teams out there that don't average as many plays, but they average bigger, more explosive plays than the Chiefs.
Well, you got to look at the number of plays and then the number of first downs. Mm-hmm. In many ways, it's very if you have a lot of first downs earned in a game and you have a lot of plays, then you're controlling the ball. Your time of possession is high. Who cares if you're explosive in that situation because you're controlling the narrative. You're controlling the situation there, which typically turns out better. One team I can think of that really exemplifies that was remember the early days of Dak Prescott with Ezekiel Elliott, and they would have a billion plays per drive. It didn't look super explosive, but they were just, paper cutting you to death, and the time of possession was 35, 36 minutes, something crazy, right? So, yes, if it goes together. Now, if it doesn't result in a first down or a touchdown, then it's not great to have that, because once you fall behind, it becomes more difficult to come back. I think, the opposite of how you feel about, the Bills 13-second situation, right? So, it's kind of a misleading stat on its own, or just doesn't tell the full story on its own. You have to look at first downs, you have to look at points per drive, and then you also have to look at, what is the defense doing? Are they getting the good news about having a lot of plays per drive is often it gives your defense a rest, which typically is better. But if you're not converting, then you have to look and see the full picture in that story.
Yeah, and this is achieved. By the way, just as a quick aside, when we're talking about plays per drive and plays in a game, I wonder, how quickly the Colts defense can recover from facing 91 plays against the Chiefs last weekend,
right?
And then over the weekend facing 71 plays against the Texans, 166 or 162 plays they have faced in the last 2 weeks, and some of that is certainly offense for the Colts not sustaining drives, but some of that is as well, not getting off the field enough on third downs. And that's one of the things that does concern me about this game on Sunday against the Texans, is that the Texans did have 5 different drives of 8 plays or more against the Colts, that they were sustaining drives, they were picking up third downs. And the Chiefs are one of the worst teams in the NFL on third downs, and they're one of the worst teams in the NFL on third and long defensively. Like that's and so they just can't get off the field. So that is a concern against the Texans. If you limit the number of possessions against that Texans defense, a number of chances to score against them, and your defense is out there a long time, that really concerns me about this matchup this weekend.
Well, the Texans offense isn't what I'm concerned about. I'm not super worried about the Texans offense.
No, it's not the Texans offense. It's the Texans offense burning the clock and minimal possessions against the Texans defense.
Right.
And that's
right.
what I'm worried about, is the Texans defense and not getting enough cracks trying to beat that thing.
Although you can run the football on the Texans defense, which is a little weird when you go back and watch that Colts game, why they didn't run to the outside with Jonathan Taylor and continue to do that as often. I don't know. I think sometimes, in the past couple of games, maybe Shane Steichen has overthought it a little bit, right? Because I think he's trying to maybe overcome a little bit too much with the banged up Daniel Jones, et cetera. That's not the team we're facing, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
It was a strange game plan from them, considering they have Jonathan Taylor.
Yes. Visiting with Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. The Chiefs fans and analysts have been, lamenting special teams for a while, the last couple of years, and certainly this year, the hidden yards. The Chiefs lead the league in most yards per drive, but they are also 28th in field position in where their drives start. I feel like when we talk about special teams, we don't really. It's like, they started at the 25 instead of the 32. Okay, they started at the 19 instead of the 30. Yeah, that sucks, but it's only one first down, all of that stuff. But man, it starts to add up, and I think we start to see it 12 games in when the Chiefs are doing what they're doing offensively and driving, but you're missing out on some opportunities because you've got to have that many plays because you are the 5th worst in the league in your starting field position. Is that all special teams, or are there other things baked into the Chiefs being, 28th in the league in starting field position?
Well, that's where your plays per drive starts to be a little bit more contextualized, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're starting further back, it's a different type of defense. You're not getting the advantage of being able to, start in a position where they're a little bit less likely to try to pressure, whatever. So, that's where the strategy changes a little bit and the plays for drive changes. So I think part of, the hidden yards with special teams, some of it is strategic because, we changed some of the kickoff rules and we've seen all these things be a little bit different this year, and some people have different philosophies on it. So I think ranking 28th is, I don't know, in a vacuum that sounds bad, but perhaps that was part of what the strategic plan was to begin with, right? You can choose to run or you can choose not to run, right? A lot of teams this year have chosen different things, right? And just from the kickoff part of it, on punts and all of these things, you need to have the right, thoughtfulness around it, but practice it in a way where it makes sense. I've heard a lot of different philosophies. I spent time with the Broncos ahead of the season, and obviously Darren Rizzi's one of the more hilarious coaches to watch on the sidelines. But he's hilarious. If you haven't seen that, it's worth a Google.
Unbelievable.
But he, he's like, I've had to adapt it even mid-season before. Not necessarily talking about this Broncos team, but back in his Saints days and et cetera. He's like, because I know my guys do want to do X or don't want to do Y. So I mean, we have to kind of be in the room with them. It's not as I just don't think it's as simple as not good or good. I think it's like, what do they want to do? What are they trying to do? Are they doing it well? Are they adapting it fast enough in mid-game? Are they changing their strategy to something that works? So it's a little more complex than it seems.
Yeah, Danny Smith and Darren Rizzi.
My God,
would have an
I'm dead.
Yeah, Steelers and Broncos playing each other. Just put the camera on the special teams coaches the entire time. A split shot.
The amount of gum that man chews, Danny Smith. I mean,
know.
I like how much he must invest in like Wrigley. Something crazy.
He has the strongest jaws. If we had to live on our own in the wild, he would be the one that would be able to tear apart an animal with his jaws.
Exactly.
And be able to eat. That guy's jaws have to be.
But Rizzi would never be able to speak to anyone because that man loses his voice. Like it's like the second day of training.
Trying to yell that it's over here. Like, I can't hear you, man. All right, you got to yell louder. I can't. Visiting with the Cynthia Freeland NFL Network analytics expert. This Houston offensive line. I know in years past the Chiefs have faced them. We've got the fun clip that we play of you that we used decidedly ungood. And that originated from the Houston offensive line last year when you said they are decidedly ungood. This Chiefs team has all of 0 sacks the last 2 weeks, and they've played, which is suboptimal and on a defense. But how good is this Houston offensive line, and is this an opportunity for the Chiefs to be able to pressure C.J. Stroud and get the quarterback to the ground?
There's definitely a lot of opportunity in this one. I'm not going to say they're the worst in the league anymore, but they're not the best. Bottom third, bottom fourth, like very, very interesting because part of the dynamic there, if you think about what they have tried to do this season as an offense, they're very Patriots-y. And that Patriots-y principle means that you are kind of masking some of the issues with an O-line, which can be good, but it can also confuse C.J. Stroud, which is what we saw earlier in the season. And part of it was because the O-line principles were, he's just a different guy than some of the Patriots strategy. Like his abilities and what he's best at aren't necessarily like what the Patriot way is known for, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I'm thinking about that in a way where it kind of masks a little bit of the O-line. So that's a positive of the Patriots way, but there's a lot of things that I would imagine Spags is cooking up. We know what happens. I just always remember those openers when the Chiefs used to play the Patriots almost every single opening weekend. Everyone's like, the Patriots are going to roll, and then the Chiefs would win.
Yeah, let's hope the Chiefs end up winning this weekend. What about the opposite O-line and defense matchup? The Houston Texans against the Chiefs offensive line that Josh Simmons, I'm not counting on him returning this year. IR, they said, is a possibility. He's looking at a second opinion. Typically, if you get the opinion the first time, you don't need a second one. So that's not really all that great. So I don't know when Josh Simmons will return. Trey Smith has a high and low ankle sprain. Jawan Taylor has the elbow. So the Chiefs may have Jalen Moore, Caliendo, and Wanya Morris, 3 of their 5 offensive linemen against the Texans. That doesn't seem ideal against that defensive front. How can the Chiefs?
Sure doesn't.
How can the Chiefs, if at all, counter what will be, I think, minimum 2 backup offensive linemen, potentially 3 against the scary front of the Houston Texans?
I'm not suggesting it's the best way, but it's something that I'm suggesting will happen. It's Patrick Mahomes' ability to be explosive on the ground with his legs. Whether or not that's what I hope happens from like a standpoint of wanting to always see the best players on the field. Like, this is terrifying because between Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., they have the most pressures as a duo since Danielle's gotten back from being injured. So, you're looking at that, and what is the counterbalance to that? You got to run right at them. And unfortunately for the Chiefs, the surest rusher, the most reliable, explosive rusher has been Patrick Mahomes all season. So whatever I don't gamble, you don't gamble. Obviously, we don't know what that's all about.
Nope.
But if you were, whatever that rushing total is for Patrick Mahomes, blow it out of the water. So, whether or not that's what we like to see, I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, that was actually my assessment too. And thinking about this game, Cynthia, is I think this is going to be a game where Mahomes will take the snap, and I think pretty quickly start to look around where he can maybe run and escape out of the pocket. And I think there will be some times where people will watch the all-22, and I think there will be some plays in a vacuum where someone will go, I mean, he's wide open, and Mahomes is already looking at the defensive front because it's happened before. And this is a matchup that I don't blame him to be doing that. I think they're going to see a lot of that, and that's really the reason, Cynthia, why I'm concerned about the Texans' offense extending drives is as many chances to score against that Texans defense would be ideal. If they limit the possessions, it makes it, that much more difficult. A couple of quick ones.
Yeah, but do you really trust any of their pass catchers? I mean, I get it. Like Nico Collins is a good wide receiver. We've seen some tricks from him in order to get him going. Like Dalton Schultz, yeah, okay. Like, I mean, I'm just not suggesting that this is the same level of pass catcher as CeeDee Lamb or George Pickens, just, to name two.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
That's the thing where I've seen C.J. Stroud get baffled this season, baffled by false leverages or, meaning that he thinks he has an inside read and it's really to the outside, et cetera. And, pre-snap confusing things like, is it zone, is it man? So I don't think it's as cut and dry as, it may seem. I think, the offense of the Texans, again, not the concern. And we've seen Nick Chubb run the football. Sure. We've seen Woody Marks. Oh, okay. But I don't think they're able to run against this defense. They don't have a true rushing threat that's going to change the way play action is dictated and defended and respected, right? That kind of thing. I don't know. The offense is not, again, the offense isn't the concern here.
Yeah. And the Texans are somewhat predictable to a degree in their tendencies. I know the Chiefs are too when it comes to they just don't run the ball. But in that
but who do you trust more? I mean, no shade to C.J. Stroud, right? But do you ever think that the Chiefs are out of it? No. And do you know who won't? The Texans defense.
Yeah.
They're not infallible.
Yeah, for sure. And against that Colts team, I mean, the Texans went shotgun 39 times and they passed on 34 of them. I mean, they went
not
under
going shotgun 39 times again.
Right. No. They went under center. The Texans did against the Colts 26 times and they ran on 20 of them. So they were kind of predictable against the Colts in that one. I don't know if that'll be the same thing against the Chiefs. All right, two quick ones. Who wins on Sunday, do you think?
I think it's going to be the Chiefs. I understand that it's going to take a clean game, and I told you I don't like O-line changes to help with where those holding penalties could be called. However, I think the quick pass is going to be the key. Patrick Mahomes' legs are going to be the key. And unfortunately for 15, it is going to be first in Mahomes, second in Mahomes, third in Mahomes, and maybe even fourth in Mahomes.
Yep. It would be nice if the defense can get a couple of turnovers and some short fields. Sure. That would work as well. And then last but not least, who wins in the sack count this year? The Chiefs have 22 and Myles Garrett has 19.
Myles Garrett. Yep, I think Myles Garrett gets the record this year.
And he has more than the Chiefs team?
Maybe not more than the Chiefs team, but it's going to be close.
It's 22 to 19. It's close right now.
Well, it's close right now. And he gets the Titans this week. He could very legitimately this week alone against the Titans could, 4 is very achievable. That's a wild number.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable season so far for him. Yeah, Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network. You always crush it. Appreciate it. Enjoy the football, and we will talk next week.
Sounds good. Have a great weekend.
Yes, you too. There's Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network analytics expert. Great stuff from her, and it's interesting. We bring her on to talk about the thing, and the first thing she gets to is, these last 4 games and the losses. Well, clean some things up and penalties. It's about penalties. And Sam McDowell with what he wrote this morning, which I think is really fascinating. I want to talk a little bit more about that on the other side of the break. We will hear from the Kansas City Chiefs at 11:45. It'll be Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Creed Humphrey, and Trent McDuffie. We take a timeout. We come back. More Zone next. Well, it's touchdowns. It's touchdowns, and it's touchdowns. And for the Chiefs, it's about scoring touchdowns when you get to the red zone, you need to be able to take care of that. And you know what? Cynthia Freeland also talking about maybe some rushing yards because she likes Patrick Mahomes' legs, and the rushing yard total for him is 21.5. And she said, look, I don't know what it would be. I'm not a gambler. I don't bet yours for the NFL. Of course not. But that's sitting at 21.5. She likes, she said if you were to do that, maybe take the over on those particular things. Let's hope that the Chiefs have the over in, 2 or 3 touchdowns in this game against the Texans, because one touchdown can change everything. The crowd, the momentum, the game itself, it never gets old. And you feel that same rush with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, where every touchdown can bring you closer to cashing in. And with DraftKings Sportsbook, all the action is in your hands. First touchdown, anytime touchdown, live bets, every play, every snap, every game matters, and an amazing boost for the Chiefs and Texans game right now at DraftKings. They are boosting it to plus 100 if the Chiefs or Texans gain 1 total yard in the game. 1 yard in the game, they are going to boost it 100 to plus 100, max bet $50. $50, somebody gains a yard in the game, you get 100 back. That's at DraftKings right now for Missouri customers. And by the way, Missouri, if you haven't got involved yet, well, new customers, bet $5. If your bet wins, get $200 in bonus bets instantly. When your team hits the end zone, you could hit the payout. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use code 810WHB. That's code 810WHB. Bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, Kansas only. Eligibility and restrictions apply on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Michael Darcy. Thank you to Cynthia Freeland joining us in the previous segment. We will hear from the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Creed Humphrey, and Trent McDuffie. They will be at the podium starting around 11:45 or so. It's about 10 minutes from now we'll hear from those fellas. Getting ready for the Texans game on Sunday night as we continue to talk about sense of urgency, backs against the wall, got to leave it all out there on the field and everything, and, cleaning some things up. And I brought it up with Cynthia because when I asked her about, this is now 4 weeks where we've talked about this Chiefs team and going into a big game, and they've got 3 losses of those 4 by a score. They've got 6 losses by a combined 25 points this year. Last year they were winning these games. This year they are losing these games. And the theme, the commonality between this year and last year is that the winner of the one-score games are the ones that were leading in the fourth quarter more often than not. The Chiefs have had some leads in the fourth quarter that they have blown 3 times of the 6. But they also have some games where they were trailing and they got back in to make it a one-score game. Whereas last year, the Chiefs had some games where they came back in the fourth quarter. They did not blow any fourth-quarter leads. But also some of those one-score games were multi-score games that were made one-score games with the team scoring at the end and then the Chiefs running the clock out.
Yeah.
That's the commonality between the 2 years. It's just the Chiefs are on the other end of that this year. But she mentioned cleaning some things up in terms of Andy Reid and penalties. When I said, 3 of the 4 games, what's the takeaway? Penalties. It's penalties. And Sam McDowell and what he wrote this morning was really enlightening stuff. The Chiefs have been penalized 10 or more times in a game, 4 different games. They're 0-4 in those games. The Dallas game, the Chiefs were more adversely affected by penalties, according to NFL Fast R data, and that looks at how penalties adversely affect a team. Win probability, things like that. The Chiefs were more adversely affected by penalties than any team in the NFL last week. In Week 11, when they lost to the Broncos, the Chiefs were more adversely affected by offensive penalties than any team in the NFL. And against the Jags, in Week 5, the Chiefs were more adversely affected by total penalties than any team in the NFL. That's 3 weeks where penalties have been the biggest impact negatively to a specific team in the entire league. 3 of those weeks this year out of 12 have been the Chiefs specifically.
And I don't think you're necessarily saying it's the refs'
No.
What we're trying to get the point across here is the Chiefs have been vastly undisciplined.
Yeah.
I think that's the main takeaway. Yeah, there's going to be a call that will go against you during a season. There will be bad calls. I think the one against Trent McDuffie with CeeDee Lamb was a bad call. Yeah. But I don't think every single one of those was a bad call.
But also, real quick to that point, Sterling, I think the Xavier Worthy offensive pass interference was a bad call. But Xavier Worthy stopped running. He made contact with the guy and then he slowed down.
Yeah.
So the official goes, okay, well, his only route was to run into that guy. That's offensive pass interference. How about when you're running by him and you make contact, you sort of get out of his way if you can and keep running? There's no way Xavier Worthy was taught to stop or to slow down. He was taught to run, you make contact, and you keep freaking going. His awareness is a 0 on Madden. And it's getting to the point of annoyance. He can't come back to the football. It's something you hit on last year, Sterling. You were talking about this with Xavier Worthy, that he never comes back to the football. Even passes over the middle, he still drifts away, which has cost the Chiefs multiple connections and receptions and completions this year. Not just the comeback for the football when it's a deep pass, just an over route. Or not an over route, but if you're just running straight across the field, right? Just an in route, an in-breaking route. And he sort of starts fading towards the goal line and the safety comes in and knocks it away. If you go and get that hands out, don't jump and body catch it like you tried to do against the Cowboys where they can knock it away. Be strong. Awareness is almost at 0 with this guy, which is annoying. There's no way he was taught, Sterling, to run straight as soon as contact and then just slow down and stop.
Correct.
That's not how it was taught. And if it was, then fire the wide receiver coach or somebody else. I don't know. But that's him making contact and then just slowing down because it's not to me. I'm not the route here. I've done my job. You haven't, though, because you did some of your job, but then they threw the flag, even though I don't think it was a penalty.
Sure.
He exacerbated in the ref's mind what could have made it a penalty because, well, if that was actually a route that he was running that was a legit route, he doesn't just slow down and stop. He keeps going.
It's the same thing with Juwan Taylor. People can be upset all you want about how he
They may
lines
beat the
up
Broncos. They may beat the Broncos. Who knows?
And you might say, well, why didn't you call it earlier? Well, the point is, you can say sure, but he's still lining up off sides. He's still not lining up correctly. At some point, if you want to make sure it's not a penalty, don't do that. It's kind of like Kadarius Toney. We can talk all we want about how they never call that. They never call that. Sure, but guess what? Also, line up correctly,
It was a
and
penalty.
it won't get called. And so that's what the Chiefs have done a lot this year is, sure, are there some calls that maybe not great? Yeah. But at the same time, don't even put yourself in that situation or scenario. We understand refs aren't great. Don't be like the loser teams that complain about the refs, because you know why? You overcome. Refs suck.
Yeah.
No one's sitting here going, they get every call right. When the Chiefs were winning last year, and when teams say, well, it's the refs, what did we say?
Overcome.
Overcome. Be better. Don't put yourself in that situation. So I'm doing the same thing now.
100%.
It ain't the refs' fault the Chiefs are 6-6. It's the Chiefs' fault they're 6-6.
If the Chiefs miss the playoffs, it has nothing to do with officiating. Nothing to do with officiating. Just as the Chiefs making the playoffs had nothing to do with officiating.
Correct.
The last number of years. They've been the benefactor of a couple of calls this year, too. It happens. It happens. Overcome. There's some bad calls that take place. There's some bad calls that the Chiefs may get away with. I just wonder if Colts fans are as pissed off at the NFL for rigging the Chiefs game as they are the Texans game. Is the NFL rigging the Texans game? Because the Colts got absolute jobbed in that game against the Texans. By the way, rooting for the Texans to win that game, Colts got screwed. Colts got a terrible whistle in that game, and I would be pissed off if I was a Colts fan, if I was Shane Steichen. I'd be mad if I was Lou Anarumo. They got screwed in that game. The week before that, they blamed everything on the refs and the league for the Chiefs winning. But against the Texans, that was way more egregious. It's just that the officials are bad. They got screwed. It helped the Chiefs. I'm fine with it. We'll take a timeout. Come back. We'll hear from the Chiefs next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Michael Darcy. Busy day in the show today. We talked with Derek Young in the first hour, KSO, K-State Online, on 3 Sports, as Chris Kleiman, 4 o'clock press conference with Gene Taylor, expected to retire as the head coach of the Kansas State Wildcats. Colin Klein expected to take over in Manhattan as the head coach. And the timing of this whole thing, and by the way, when Andy Reid starts, we'll head out to Arrowhead. But the timing of this whole thing is going to be really interesting to hear, because if this was something that Chris Kleiman was thinking about, I do wonder if there was a conversation with he and Gene Taylor where Gene Taylor said, look, Chris, do me a solid. If you're going to retire, it needs to be done soon, because Colin Klein's getting ready to go to South Florida. I mean, they're going to hire him.
Yeah.
He's the main guy. He's the one they're talking to. They're in deep discussions with him. And if you're going to retire, don't do it 3 days after Colin Klein takes the South Florida job.
Correct.
If you're going to retire, don't do it after the bowl game. Retire.
If you're even thinking about retiring, let us know now, because, by the way, good for K-State getting this correct. Whether or not it works, they at least had a plan, and the plan is the one they wanted. It wasn't they 7 rows down of the plan. It's not Penn State. It's not let's fire a guy and then wing it.
Yeah.
No, they said, okay, we think Colin Klein's the next guy, but we don't want him to take this job. So I don't know how it went behind the scenes, but the point remains, K-State had a plan. And again, we don't know the result of the plan, but the process, to me, I think they nailed it.
Yeah, if that was the case, it might have been just amazing timing where Chris Kleiman was going to retire anyway, and it was like, hey, Colin, if you haven't accepted the job yet, we'd love for you to be the guy we hire here. And the timing of it, too, because K-State has missed out on the timing of a couple of alumni as well when, Brad Underwood is at Illinois.
Yeah.
And they never got a chance to hire him at K-State because of timing. And Brent Venables is the head coach at Oklahoma, and you didn't hire him at K-State. Now you've got Colin Klein, a guy who's viewed as one of the next best coaching prospects.
The concern would be...
It'd be with Andy Reid. Here we go.
Today, or Roland Wallace with his back. He is making progress. And then Josh Simmons ended up having surgery on that wrist for a fracture and a dislocation. He'll go on to IR, and then we'll just see about the recovery on that, where it goes from there. And then Trey and Jawan won't practice today, but they're making progress going forward. Look forward to the challenge of playing the Texans, a good football team. D'Amico's done a great job down there with that crew. And so we know we've got to have a good week of practice, and the guys were in here today beginning that part. So anyways, with that, time's yours. Esapoa, by the way, will take that spot. Yeah, he'll be the one out.
Coach, just on Josh's front, he's been through so much kind of stuff this year. How disappointing is it for him? How's he kind of doing on the emotional side of this about having to go down for a while?
Yeah, so listen, the kid loves to play football, and that's that part. He's depressed about that part. That's probably the wrong word, but he's down about that part. But he's upbeat. I mean, the surgery went well, which was a real positive, and so he feels good about that. And then it's just a matter of coming back. He's did a great job with his knee coming back. He's a worker, so whatever he can do to rehab it, he's going to do. That's just how he rolls. So, but yeah.
So the potential view here is hopefully have him available for the postseason. Is that what you're probably looking for?
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. They've got to wait just a little bit on that, Herbie, and see how that goes with his recovery. But there's always that chance. Yeah.
Maybe with Trey and Jawan, Jalen and Wanya are probably the ones in line to step up. And Mike Elliott too. How have you seen them evolve over the course of the year in practice with limited play time?
Yeah, I mean the one positive is 2 of the 3 of them played against them last year, so did a good job. So that they know what they're up against. That's a great defensive front. Great defense. I mean all 3 levels are really good, and they're number 1 in a lot of categories there. So defensively, but those guys they're getting themselves ready to go. Yeah.
A couple of moving parts there now on the offensive line. Is Jalen Moore going to be the first man up over on left tackle, or you're visiting probably right tackle for him?
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens with the injured guys first. But yeah, that would probably be, he'd probably be at the right tackle and Wanye at the left if that's the way it went. Yeah.
Coach, how important has Creed Humphrey been to you this last couple of years?
Yeah, all pro, helpful. He's a great player there, and a great person, stable. So you're gonna get the same thing every day, and he's gonna prep the same way every day, and he's dirty, tough, and strong. So smart.
Andy, when you look at just the fourth quarters that you guys have had, you guys have been in every game, even the ones that you lost. So do you do something different to work on the execution in those moments?
Yeah, what we need to do is take care of some of the little things, the penalty things. They take you out of drives, so you're not scrambling, as you go there. You gotta clean that up. And then some of that, got to give the guys the right plays to try to execute to their strengths. Coaching's part of it, playing is part of it, and we all have a piece of that pie. You surely, against good teams, you can't have this discrepancy or distance between the other team's penalties and your penalties. That shouldn't happen that way in a football game, right or wrong. So I'm not saying they're all correct. I'm just saying one team's got a bunch and the other team, that's not good for anybody.
The guys were able to get away for 3 or 4 days. I guess as you approach these last 5, what was the message to the team as you attack?
So it buys the coaches time to go back and give them some answers to things, and which is a positive, and then let's go. So you're in the month of December, and you're still in it. So let's go. That's what's important.
Andy, you mentioned it on Monday, but how do you get the pass rush going?
Yeah, well, I can't tell you exactly, but I mean, we're going to try and make it better. To start with, you've got to win some individual battles, and but there are other things that Spags has that he uses there too. So.
Coach, you mentioned their defense gets after the quarterback pretty well. What specifically is it about Houston's defense that you've seen especially over this past little bit, where they've gotten hot?
Yeah, so it starts up front. They've got an active front, and I think their linebackers likewise are tuned in. They can run, tackle, very sound that way. Their back end, likewise, they've got talent on the back end. All 3 levels, they're solid. I think they all work together. So they've done a nice job.
Andy, on Monday you mentioned positive attitude a lot, attack miss with a positive attitude. I'm sure there's times where you want to get the team going, kick them in the butt a little bit. Why is it important right now for you guys to maintain positivity through which?
I'm big on reality. What's real? Why are we where we are? What can we do to fix that? So that's what I look at, and try to give the guys that so they have something to work on. Likewise, as a coach, that's how I look at it for myself, for the coaches. Where are the problems, and let's work on fixing those. And if you do that, it takes your energy to get it right, and that's what we're striving to do.
I guess what do you see with the reality of this team right now?
Yeah, that we're very close. So we just got to take care of business. Whatever I say here, or whatever I say, it's what you do. I mean, that's where you're at. So you gotta do it and fix the issues because we're very close.
Matt?
Coach, what are the chances we can still see Nazi Johnson from injured reserve come back before the end of the year?
Yeah, we'll have to see on that, Matt. There's always that chance, but we'll have to see where that goes.
You mentioned Holmes is taking Simmons' spot. I guess what would you guys like to get him back here, and how confident are you?
Yeah, we thought we saw some talent there, and he knows the scheme, obviously, and we thought there was some growth. He could be a guy that works in somewhere.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
All right, good, thank you.
All right, there's Andy Reid. We'll hear from Patrick Mahomes when he gets to the podium. Josh Simmons heading to IR. Had surgery yesterday on that fractured and dislocated wrist. Trey Smith and Juwan Taylor not practicing today. Christian Roland Wallace not practicing today with his back injury. Herbie had the follow-up and asked about Josh Simmons, maybe back for the postseason. Is that the hope that you get him back there? And Andy Reid saying, well, you just see how things go, how the rehab goes, but there's always that chance. Okay. It's kind of a passing comment from Andy, as he was talking, and well, there's always that chance. Okay, he was asked about him returning for the postseason, and Andy said, there's always that chance. Like I said yesterday or Monday that I'm not planning on seeing Josh Simmons again this year. If he returns, awesome, he returns. But if he doesn't play again this year, then I don't know how the Chiefs win, 8 games in a row, certainly 9 games in a row.
The left tackle, right tackle conversation was not what I thought.
Yeah, so if Juwan Taylor can't play, then it'll be Jalen Moore at right tackle and Wanya Morris at left tackle.
Did he get that correct, or do you I'm not saying he do you think he misspoke, or do you think that's what the actual situation would be? Because I would be surprised.
The only thing I could think is that do they like the matchup better with one blocker over another? Will Anderson will line up against Jalen Moore on the left side. Daniil Hunter lines up on the right side of the defense / left tackle for Wanya Morris. So it would be Wanya v. Daniil Hunter, Jalen Moore v. Will Anderson if Jalen Moore is the right tackle. Maybe they like that matchup better. Maybe they view Will Anderson as a bigger threat. I do as well. So let's put, like Max Crosby always lining up on the left side. Well, let's put our best blocker over there against Max Crosby. I don't know. I'd rather have my best offensive tackle line up on the left side. But maybe that's the thought process. But I don't see the Chiefs flipping back and forth and doing that in the game. I thought that when Jalen Moore came in for Juwan Taylor and then Josh Simmons got hurt and they put Wanya Morris there, I thought, well, the Chiefs don't typically, change up in the middle of the game. They're going to leave it this way because Jalen already came in for Juwan to play right tackle. Whereas if Josh would have gone down first and Jalen came in for Josh Simmons in left tackle and then Juwan Taylor goes down, then Wanya Morris would have come in for Juwan Taylor and he would have played right tackle. But if Andy Reid did not misspeak, then Wanya Morris would be the left tackle and Jalen Moore would be the right tackle. We'll see. Here is Creed Humphrey.
What's the challenge for you if that comes to be?
Yeah, for us, whoever's going to be in the game, they're going to be ready to roll. So for me, it's just making sure the communication's good, everybody's on the same page, and everybody's ready to play.
Josh had a pretty up and down season, but when he plays, he's been really good. Just what have you tried to instill in him and part of this next chapter in his career, given that he's had to go on IR and get the surgery?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a tremendously talented player, really talented, great at a lot of things. So for him, it's just being able to be consistent, and his potential's sky's the limit for that. So he's a really talented player, and for us, it's just making sure he's on the same page as us as far as communication throughout the plays, things like that. But he's done a great job for us, and I'm excited to see what he does in the future.
Creed, what do you make of just where you guys are and what the response needs to be over these next 5 weeks?
Yeah, it feels really close. It feels, just a couple plays here and there each game, and things would be different. So for us, it's just making sure we're coming in with the right mindset every day, doing everything, one meeting at a time, one walkthrough at a time, one practice at a time, making sure we're getting everything we can out of each day and improving each day. And so we do that, we're going to like what we're going to be doing. So for us, it's just about making sure we're being consistent throughout the week and executing when we're supposed to execute.
You've never been on a Chiefs team that had this record this late in the season. Is there a championship DNA in this locker room that can be applied the last month of the season?
Yeah, I mean, for like I just said, it's about consistency. It's about showing up every day. It's about coming in on game day, executing, doing your job, things like that. So for us, it's just about, the ship's not sinking or anything. We're still right where we need to be, just making sure we're coming in and improving each week.
With Wanya and Mike specifically, just how have you seen the course of their development? Because this. I mean, Mike's got a lot of good playing time, but Wanya hasn't been as much. How have you seen their development over the course of practices that makes you feel confident when they come to the game?
Yeah, well, first off, they're both really talented players. You know, they both have all the intangibles that you'd want in an offensive lineman. And Coach Heck's done a great job developing them since they've been here. So for us, it's just, you know, we're confident in them, and we're confident in everybody in the room. So for that, it's just, you know, we're excited to see them get after it, them playing if they're playing. So, yeah.
Creed, what can you tell us about Houston's defense, especially up front?
Yeah, very talented all across the board. You know, all three levels of the defense, very talented. They present a good challenge. So, you know, they have great pass rushers, great players inside, great linebackers, great secondary. So it presents a good challenge. And the guys are excited for it. We're ready to get in here and work throughout this week and get the game plan figured out and show up on Sunday ready to play.
Are they like a blitzing team, stunting team? I mean, how do they get to the quarterback?
Yeah, they play aggressive defense. You know, they're really sound technically, really sound schematically, and play very hard. Everybody has a great motor on the defense. So, you know, whatever scheme they're playing that week, they're doing a great job with it. So for us, it's just about coming out and making sure we match that energy and bring more and just show up with the right mindset on Sunday.
Creed, you mentioned the ship's not sinking. Just how important is that message when you guys aren't getting the results you want?
Yeah, I think it's huge. You know, like I said, it was all the games have been close. You know, it's a few plays here and there, and we'd be looking at different results. So for us, it's just about making sure we're coming in, being consistent, and executing when we need to execute.
Thanks, Creed.
Yep.
All right, there you go. There's Creed Humphrey, and he will have more than likely, I would guess at this point, Caliendo to his right and Kingsley to his left. It certainly feels like with Trey Smith and Juwan Taylor not practicing today, that there will be three backup offensive linemen against the Houston Texans. Here's Patrick Mahomes.
For you, just how do you describe it, just this team's attitude, trying to get into the stretch run? As you said, you got to win every one.
Yeah, I think more than anything, we just got to execute at a higher level, and I thought we've done a lot of good things, but at the same time, we made a lot of mistakes that we haven't been able to overcome, and so we got to be better in those bigger moments, not make those mistakes, and at the end of the day, go prove it. You got to prove it on game day, and that's something that I believe we can do.
Possibly you guys could have three backup linemen against Texas, just your confidence in some of these guys that have to step in.
Yeah, I mean, they're guys that have played, and so obviously we'll go through the week and see where we're at with the guys that are a little banged up. But you got to give the respect where it's deserved, and those guys have a great defensive line, and so we'll try to do the best we can. Is getting the ball out of my hand, running the football, and then whenever there's shots on the field, you got to be able to hit them. And so standing in the pocket, making those throws against a really good defense.
Patrick, you mentioned that every season's different. So now that you guys are in this spot, can you rely on past years' experience to things to help pull you out, or do you, are there certain intangibles you need to see this group?
Yeah, I mean, you can utilize some things. I mean, we've played in a lot of big games, and so knowing that the speed of the game speeds up and the moment's bigger, and you got to settle yourself and go out there and play your best football. But I mean, I don't know if we've been in this situation this early in the season, and so I think just learning from it together, building together, and then using what we can use from prior seasons to hopefully make a run at this thing and try to get ourselves into the playoffs and see where we can go from there.
You mentioned after the game just that you guys have been in every game. Is there something specific you can work on in those bigger moments, or just have to let the natural game flow of what you work on normally play out?
Yeah, I mean, you can learn from it, but at the end of the day, you got to make the plays. And that's stuff that we haven't done consistently enough. There's been games we have and we've won, and there's been games when we haven't. And so just having to make those plays in the big moments will get you those wins.
But you've, Patrick, in previous postseasons, you've made it very clear that you want to use your legs to be more of a dual threat. Is that something you're going to have to sort of engage on Sunday, given just the dire situation you guys are in?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to utilize everything, not just my legs. I mean, you got to utilize everything you have to go out there and win. I mean, this is a really good football team that's playing really good football right now and has a really good defense. And so we're going to throw it all out there and try to find a way to win. And this will be a big game for us to showcase who we are and who we think we can be moving on the rest of the season.
Patrick, we've heard from Creed and Andy. They always say close. You guys are close. What signs do you see that you guys are?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at every game that we've lost this year, we've been right in it up until the end, but we haven't made those plays, and so we're definitely close. But like I've kind of said these last few weeks, you can be close, but you can't be close for too long. You got to go out there and make it happen, and I think we have the guys to do that, but we got to go out there and prove it. And there's another opportunity for us to go out there and prove it this weekend.
What was it like? You guys had some time off. Is there time off for you? Were you in coach's ear talking about game plan stuff already, or did you actually kind of shut it down for a little while and get away from football?
Yeah, I mean, I always talking to coach. So, I mean, obviously we're in a spot in the season where you can have some time off, but you're looking ahead at how to get yourself better to try to make a run. And I'll talk to all the coaches about things that I see and things that I think we can continue to get better and better at. At the end of the day, they're gonna do what's best for us and put us in the best situation to succeed. And I'll give as much input as I can to help with that. But I trust they're going to go out there and put us in the right position.
You mentioned Houston's defense. What's the biggest challenge with what you see when you look at them so far?
Yeah, you got to match their intensity. I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, obviously the D-line's good, the linebackers are good, and the DBs are good. But I think what makes them who they are is how hard they play. Every single snap they're flying around, and they're trying to make plays happen. They're trying to intercept the football. They're trying to knock the football out. They're trying to make big hits. And so we got to match that intensity as an offense and as a team in order to go out there and get a win.
How tough has this been to go through for the veterans, guys who've had expect success, have had so much success?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough in the sense that we like to win. I mean, I know we all know it's a process, and we all know that we have to just continue to give ourselves a chance and continue to get better. But when you have a lot of guys that like to win, and it's tough when you lose. And so we'll continue to push. I think that's one thing that makes us great is that no one's hanging their head. Everybody's ready to go out there and try to prove ourselves this next week. And this is another great opportunity. It's a great opportunity at Arrowhead to showcase that who we think, like I said, who we think we can be the rest of this season. But it's going to start with Sunday.
Patrick, Creed Humphrey has been the one constant on your offensive line the last 2 years. What do you think of when you think of Creed?
Yeah, he's a leader, man. He's someone that he knows what it takes in order to go out there and have success, and he pushes other guys to match that level. And a great person, but a great football player and a great leader on this team. And I'm glad that's the guy that's going to lead in that offensive line.
Okay, thanks, Patrick.
All right, there's Patrick Mahomes, and he will have his work cut out for him on Sunday, no doubt about that. And asked about will he have to utilize his legs a little bit more and engage that part of his game, and he said, yeah, you got to utilize everything, do whatever it takes to find a way to win. And yes, Patrick Mahomes is going to have to be utilizing everything against the defense this weekend. That feels like it could, at least from the defensive front, I'm not saying the game overall, but the defensive front have a feel of the Bucs and Eagles in the Super Bowl of how often those guys are in the backfield. If they are, paying rent in the backfield for the Kansas City Chiefs.
I have a big brain theory that the injuries might help KC because it's going to force Patrick and Andy to adjust, because if they were all healthy on the offensive line, they'd say, well, maybe we have a chance. Maybe we have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
This Texans defensive line beats, if they were 5 Trent Williams, they're getting beat. This defensive line and this entire defense of Houston's phenomenal. This forces Andy and Nagy and Patrick to have to be creative, and they have to get the ball out quick, and they're going to have to adjust. So I almost am sitting here trying to big brain, and yeah, it's copium over here, but I'm sitting here trying to make myself believe that with the injuries, this will force Andy to have the most creative game plan we have seen all season long. That's what I'm hoping.
I hope that as well. There have been times that I've hoped that a certain game plan would happen against a certain opponent that seems like there would be somewhat of an advantage. That hasn't happened. They don't really have a choice this week.
Yes.
Like, it has to be quick passes, quick throws, moving the pocket, play actions, bootlegs, screens, wide receiver screens, middle screens, pick and roll screens. I don't care. Screens of screening movies, whatever you want to screen, that's fine. It's got to be that. Here is Trent McDuffie.
Get out of this and make a platform.
Yeah, I mean, we've been here before, Coaches always bring about this saying where it's like December to remember. You play your best football in December, and just the attitude around here is understanding where we're at. We have a shot. We're still in the hunt, and we got to just take it week by week, game by game, and make sure we go out there and execute our game plan so that we do have a shot when it comes to playoffs.
As you reviewed the film against the Cowboys, you were against CD Lamb quite a bit. What did you take away from your own game moving forward that maybe you can be better at?
Yeah, definitely cleaning up the PIs, definitely sloppy on the back end. And, sometimes you want calls go your way, sometimes they go your way, but that's kind of out of my control. So really when I was looking at it, I was really hard on myself and just hard on the defense. We let some plays out there that we let go, and a few key missed assignments that led up big plays. So really after that game coming into this week, it's all about just fine-tuning what we do. I think that was a big thing we talked about, is just making sure when we go out there that we control what we can control. And, they might hit a big play or two, but really just making sure that our details on the back end, our details on defense is not something that's going to give up a game for us.
How close do you feel to the turnovers? It seemed like there were back-to-back plays.
Yeah.
Maybe it could have changed the game. And how close do you feel to the guys?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it every week. I think that's definitely a major emphasis that we talk about throughout the weekend. I mean, we have certain drills we do each and every day trying to emphasize that stuff. But when it comes to turnovers, I mean, we're out there trying to get them. You know what I mean? We had a few punch outs. I mean, a few things, drop balls. But really, I think just the focus is really just catching the ball and just making an emphasis. We got to make those plays. At the end of the day, we can punch it out. We can say this is stuff like that. But yeah, just making the plays when they come to you.
Trent, this may have been the same point you were making before, but when you do feel a call is going against you, how do you try to adjust to that going forward, especially within a game? I mean, what can you do to try to say, all right, it's going to be called this way? What do I need to do about it? What can I do about it?
Yeah, I mean, when calls come like that, you don't really want to kind of get out of your game. You know what I mean? You don't want to let calls kind of factor in what you do on the field. Definitely just try to clean things up, grabbing wise and the 5 yards, not getting any contact after that. But at the end of the day, we got to play football. If they throw a flag, they throw a flag. You got to just wash it away and make sure you're able to get ready for the next play.
Trent, it seems like everyone's message has been it's close.
Yeah.
A couple plays here or there. It doesn't seem like it's just always the same couple of plays. It's one here, what could be offense, could be defense, could be special teams. How does the team fix that in general? When it's lots of little things everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think each group, defense, offense, special teams, kind of just got to clean it up on their own. When you look at the games where we do really good, it's a cohesive unit. You know what I mean? Everybody's playing on the same accord. Everybody's doing their responsibility at a high level, and we have success that way. And when guys come in and one person makes a mistake and one person over here makes a mistake, and it kind of has that trickling effect. I feel like that's sometimes when we get in trouble. But like I said, I think the game plan we have, the coaches that we have, and just the overall locker room that we have, I mean, the guys understand. The guys know, you know what I mean? And there isn't anything that we hang our heads at or kind of just try to make excuses about. We just attack each week as the best as we can.
Couple more. You guys won all the close games.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you probably got a feeling during the year that someone's going to make a play sometime.
Yeah.
Is it the opposite this year? Do you feel like there's somewhere a little sense of dread that just something's not going to work out, or how do you keep that part out?
No, I mean, we're confident no matter what. I mean, we always talk about no matter what the score is, at least on the defense, like we get the ball to Patrick Mahomes, we always have a chance. And yeah, this year a few plays haven't gone our ways, and yeah, we came out on the other end of it, but just the confidence and just the attitude that we are there. We are this team that is good. We're a playoff team, and we can make those plays. I think that's really what we talk about is the positive side of things, making the plays instead of, I wish we could have.
Trent, you played this Texans team twice late last year.
Yeah.
And I know they have a new offensive coordinator, but what do you see in their offense? Any similarities? Can that help you?
Yeah, I mean, they're a confident group. You know what I mean? Even when CJ was out, the offense was still rolling. They're still doing a lot of good things. And I feel like it's one of those offenses that run what they run, and they rely on their strengths. They rely on their playmakers. And they just go out there and they play fast, and they have really good defense. So as a defense on our part, I feel like we got to outplay their defense, and we got to make sure we go into this game just understanding how they're going to attack us. They played us last year twice, but they'll definitely have a few new caveats. But like I said, they're good and they're strong where they're strong.
Last one, sir. Trent, did you take the weekend as an opportunity to get away, or is your mind still fixated on back here?
Yeah, no, I stayed around, watched film, got the body right. I feel like bye weeks are really the only time I kind of get away, but these little long breaks, I feel like it's just a good time, not only to just mentally kind of realize where you're at in the season, but also just get off your feet and kind of hang with the guys, kind of stay around, do some things around here, and just stay into football and not really worry about all the other things. Yeah. Appreciate y'all.
All right, there's Trent McDuffie talking about some of the things that took place in that Cowboys game and now getting ready for the Houston Texans. We will take a timeout, come back, continue rolling, and talk about some of the things we heard from Andy, Creed Humphrey, Patrick Mahomes, and Trent McDuffie. They get ready for the Houston Texans. We take a timeout. More Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Michael Darcy, heading up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk some more college football as Chris Kleiman is retiring. 4 o'clock press conference coming up today in Manhattan with Gene Taylor. Colin Klein will be taking over as head coach, the offensive coordinator for Texas A&M, who will stay on as the OC through the playoffs for Texas A&M. So we talked a lot about that in the first hour with Derek Young from K-State Online and On3 Sports about the timing of the whole thing, what it means, legacy, and everything like that. Also, a lot of Kansas City Chiefs football with Cynthia Freeland in the 11 o'clock hour, and then hearing from the Chiefs right there. And, you know, it'll continue to be the same theme about penalties, and they're close, and they're there, and penalties, and this and that. I don't think this is a week where you go into a game against the Texans and say, you know, the penalties are going to be able to be cleaned up, especially from an offensive team. From the offensive side of the football, the penalties are going to be able to be cleaned up. Well, if you've got 3 backup offensive linemen in there against a front that's going to bring pressure and run some games and stunts and just simply win right away, and if Mahomes is having to run and get out and scramble and do some of those things, you know, if you've got a block and he starts running to his right and that guy starts escaping to your right and you hold on thinking that he ain't going anywhere, now it's a hold. So I don't know that this is the week that you are able to overcome that. But can you overcome that with not having Mahomes sit in the pocket for 5-step drops and longer developing routes? The Eagles, the Chiefs refused to adjust. Yeah. They went into the Eagles game, and it was like, man, the defense that they're playing, there's some space that we can exploit if we can just get some protection. And they didn't. And then they came out in the second half and did the same thing. So there wasn't an adjustment. It was there's so many big plays here available. If we can just hit one of them, and if we could just, block long enough, we could do it. But you can't. And so don't go into this game with the same stubbornness and hard-headedness of, now we'll be able to block. We'll be able to, if we can just hold up, we can find some things here or there, like, quick passes, run the ball, play action, move the pocket.
Yeah.
Anything you can do to try to keep that defensive line off balance. If Andy Reid is an offensive genius, then he should be able to devise a game plan to try to mitigate the impact of that defensive line against the Chiefs' offensive line. God knows he's had to do it before. He's had some issues at offensive line. I mean, he had a number of weeks last year where it was Tooney at left tackle and Caliendo at left guard.
And until the Super Bowl, they did a fine job of making it work.
Yeah, it was fine. But he also had Creed, Trey, and Juwan on the right side. So those 3 guys were there essentially all year. And now Trey's been out of the lineup. Juwan Taylor, with the elbow injury. Neither of those guys are practicing today. Christian Roland Wallace has a back injury, not practicing again after missing that game against the Cowboys. And Josh Simmons has gone on IR. And Andy Reid saying, we'll see how the rehab goes, how that whole process plays out. But he had surgery on that dislocated and fractured wrist. And then asked in a follow-up to Andy Reid about the timeline, if he thinks that Josh Simmons, or the hope is that you can get him back for the playoffs. And Andy Reid then, going into the, we'll see. We'll just see how, things go on, and we'll, see how he heals. But there's always that chance, quote, from Andy Reid, which isn't, we'll see how he heals. And it's, I don't even know what he would say there, but
yeah,
there's always that chance. Feels a little more ominous than, we'll just see how he progresses and everything. And we gotta get there first. We got to figure those things out, and then we'll cross that bridge. But it just, maybe because on Monday I'm thinking, I don't know that we'll see Josh Simmons again this year. And heck, there was a time before the bye week that I didn't know if we would see Josh Simmons. In fact, we were talking about it, that I just, I can't sit here week by week and go, when's Josh Simmons going to be back? How long is he going to be gone? Like, either you want to play football or you don't.
Well, how about this? Since if we do think his season's done, Josh Simmons, was that the correct pick?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Because if
I agree.
The season's done, it's an unfortunate injury. because the Chiefs are really good at injuring their own players. You know, you tear an ACL, you dislocate a shoulder, you fracture and dislocate a wrist. You know, a lot of friendly fire with this Chiefs team.
Talk about self-inflicted wounds.
Seriously. I mean, it's what they do. They shoot themselves in the foot. Well, no, they don't shoot themselves in the foot, but they do truck some of their players and injure them.
They'll break your foot.
Yeah, there's some friendly fire that takes place with that. But no, it was the right pick. They needed to answer and solve the left tackle riddle that's been there. And Josh Simmons is clearly a good player. So I think they have solved that issue. It is unfortunate the back-to-back years for him, he has not finished the season. Now, he, in theory, could return for the Raiders game, the last game of the season. IR means you miss 4 weeks, 4 games. So that means he will miss the Texans, the Chargers, the Titans, and the Broncos.
And they were not afraid to put him. Now, this is injury,
Mm-hmm.
but they were not afraid to say, hey, if he's good to go and he's back, you're playing.
Yeah.
You're the starter.
Absolutely.
So if
I
he
think
is,
with legs and everything, it's a risk, so he should be ready legs and everything, but go ahead.
Yeah, but it's kind of the point I'm making is just along the lines of he's the guy if healthy. If they think he can play, they're not going to ease him back in. Now, again, different situation. This is injury. But what they've shown is you're the guy, and if you are good to go, you will be the starter. You will play. There's no Andrew Thomas, you're playing half the game, right? So if he's good to go, that Raiders game, which let's hope means something, he could be the starter. He could be the left tackle.
Yeah, if he's back by then and ready to go, then that would be great. But what's happening with the Chiefs now in injuries, and especially this offensive line, which, hey, anybody that wanted to complain about them signing Jalen Moore and then drafting Josh Simmons, the absurdity of that conversation that we talked about at the time of people going, if you're going to draft Josh Simmons, Brett Veach is such an idiot. What a dumbass spending money on Jalen Moore when you're drafting Josh Simmons. Just wasted that money. Okay, so it could be Esapole and Wanya Morris right now. But also, if Jawan Taylor returns and Trey Smith returns at some point, they're not going on the IR.
Yeah.
So if they return at some point and Jalen Moore's playing left tackle, you like that situation better than what you had last year, pretty much at any time last year with Kingsley and Wanya, out there figuring out the left tackle spot, and then DJ Humphries for 3 quarters, and then ultimately Creed Humphrey. But I don't understand the thought process around Wanya Morris playing left tackle if Jawan Taylor is out. That Wanya Morris will play left tackle and Jalen Moore will play right tackle. When has Wanya Morris showed that he's a better left tackle than right tackle? Jalen Moore played left tackle last year in replacement of Trent Williams. You signed him to play left tackle for you this year until you drafted Josh Simmons. So why, and Wanya Morris filled in at right tackle last year when you rested your starters against the Broncos. So why are you going to put Wanya back at the left tackle spot and Jalen Moore at right tackle? Wanya has proven he's not a good left tackle. He may not be a good tackle overall, but I trust him more on the right side than I do on the left side. And Jalen Moore, I think, can be a swing tackle, but you're also taking a guy who was a left tackle last year and moving him to right tackle, and you're taking a guy who was a natural right tackle and making him left tackle. I don't know. They clearly know a lot about football, and the old saying, he's forgot more football than I'll ever know and all of that stuff, but that makes 0 sense to me. And there will be people that rightfully would be frustrated and annoyed if you're watching Wanya Morris out there at left tackle get beat time and time again, which a lot of guys get beat by Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson.
Yeah.
But that makes it even worse if you're playing a guy at positions that both of them seem to be the opposite of the position that they're more naturally suited for.
3 things. 1, traditionally, Andy doesn't do that. Traditionally, Andy will say, we're not going to move multiple guys around. If this is your spot, this is your spot. We like the versatility, but we don't always like moving you. I mean, it took so long for Joe Tooney to eventually move because they didn't want to have to disrupt 2 spots. This would be disrupting 2 spots, right? So that's number 1. That's unlike Andy. Number 2, I wonder if he misspoke. I wonder if he just got left tackle, right tackle, back, messed up and backwards. there wasn't a follow-up on that, and so that's just how it was left. I mean, how many times have we said the wrong name, or how many times have we said, right tackle, so-and-so? It's possible. That's me, again, trying to maybe cope with the fact that this could be the reality of it. And then the third aspect of it is it just for this particular game because they think that Jalen Moore can handle Will Anderson more so than Wanya Morris can? If that's the case, that's the only understanding I could possibly have. But then again, it goes back to point one of, so you're only going to have it for one game? You're only going to, or is Jalen Moore going to, let's say Juwan Taylor misses this game. So let's just say then, hypothetically, Wanya Morris is at left tackle, Jalen Moore is at right tackle. Okay? So then the game following, which is the Chargers game, well, we assume that Juwan Taylor's back. But we know Josh Simmons is out. So is Wanya Morris staying at left tackle, or is now Jalen Moore going back to the left side? Are you just moving Jalen Moore back and forth, back and forth, back and forth? Because that seems...
It's what makes no sense to me.
Yes.
Is Josh Simmons is out for the next 4 games.
Correct.
And if you play Wanya Morris in this game, to your exact point, and Juwan Taylor returns against the Chargers, then why would you flip it up and then put Jalen Moore at left tackle and Wanya Morris back on the bench? If Jalen Moore is your best left tackle option, then put him at left tackle. The thing is, though, it goes back to even the depth chart going into the Chargers game. And, it's always the unofficial depth chart, and this thing's sort of put together, not really by the coaches, but you got to put a depth chart out there. The NFL wants you to do that. And that depth chart has said all year, left tackle Josh Simmons, second string Wanya Morris. Right tackle Juwan Taylor, second string Jalen Moore. That's what it's been all year. And then Jalen Moore, third string left tackle, and Wanya Morris, third string right tackle. So the depth chart, if we're following that, in theory, this is what it would be. Jalen Moore is the backup right tackle. Wanya Morris is the backup left tackle. But I remember talking about it at the time and saying, yeah, I mean, you could put Wanya Morris at left tackle as the backup, but if Josh Simmons goes down, then Jalen Moore is going to play left tackle. And by the way, Josh Simmons missed the 4 weeks. Who played left tackle? Jalen Moore.
Yeah.
I don't know. They've clearly already said Jalen Moore over Wanya Morris at left tackle without Josh Simmons because he missed, and they played Jalen Moore there.
And that's why I do wonder if he just misspoke.
I hope. I mean, I don't know.
Because the actions have told us, or again, it's a one game.
And maybe it is we're not looking at the whole season of what's better week by week by week by week over the course of the entire picture, but what's best for this particular 4 quarters.
And it's win or go home. I mean,
Wanya at left tackle against Daniil Hunter and Jalen Moore against Will Anderson at right tackle. Maybe that's the case, that Andy Heck and the Chiefs find some sort of a matchup a little bit better there. They're obviously behind the 8 ball with both of them. You'd like to have Juwan Taylor and Josh Simmons against those guys.
Yes.
That would be great. But this is also where the frustration comes in when this team was sitting 5-4 going into the bye. And we were talking about week in and week out, it felt like the Chiefs were benefiting from the injury situation by each team. The Chiefs had been really healthy, and they're going up against teams that have been really banged up. The Chargers' offensive line banged up. The Jags missing players. The Bills' defense just totally banged up. Pat Surtain not playing. Singleton for the Broncos not playing. Dobbins not playing. Like you had second and third string tight ends not playing for the Broncos. Chiefs have been healthier than almost every team they've gone up against. And now the injuries are catching up with them. And I know Xavier Worthy early on in the season, that sucked. But you're talking about multiple defensive and some offensive guys and real pieces for other teams. And we're like, man, they kind of caught a break here. Oh, hey, look, Matabuke is out. Ended up being out for the season. But all of a sudden they found a problem with his neck after the game is over, right before the Chiefs game.
Yeah.
And now he's out for the season. And now they have no idea what to do without him. Oh, hey, look, DeForest Buckner gets injured the week before they play the Chiefs. Pat Surtain's out 1 extra week after the Chiefs game. We have seen that happen this year time and time again. They didn't have Rashee Rice. That's his own doing. Xavier Worthy, that sucks. That was unfortunate. And, bad timing. But they've had the injury advantage in a number of these games, and they sat 5-4 and 5-5 after that Broncos game. And now the injuries are catching up to them, and the offensive line is now riddled with injury, and you are out your left tackle for probably the rest of the season, unless they make the playoffs and make a run. And who knows about your right tackle and your big paid right guard who has been incredibly durable is no longer durable this year.
This is a situation where they did not take advantage necessarily of the injury fortune that was given to them. It's the NFL. Injuries are going to happen. You don't know when. Early, middle, end, playoffs. Occasionally, you'll go through a year, and the Chiefs, during some of their Super Bowl runs, had been incredibly healthy in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, we know that Patrick's ankle and some of these other things, but he was able to play through them, right? The turf toe and all. Yeah. I mean, he is a warrior. We know this. But the point remains, you have to have injury luck. And the Chiefs, again, this year had some injury luck, and they did not take advantage of it.
And they didn't have injury luck last year because they lose Rashee Rice, they lose Hollywood, they lose Jalen Watson, they lose Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah, they did not have it last year, and they found a way.
And they had it through the first 10 games this year. And now the last couple of weeks, it's starting to add up. Because Christian Roland-Wallace means that Shamari Connor's playing slot.
What?
I agree.
Can we talk about Shamari? Well, I know we got to take a break, and it's dumb. I don't want to hash this up.
But I do want you to get on your rant of Shamari Connor and Christian Roland-Wallace because I know you love CRW.
Yes, I do.
And when Shamari Connor's left in the slot against
is it CeeDee Lamb?
CeeDee Lamb, and he just gets burned. I mean, just
on third down. What?
Find you somebody that looks at you and thinks of you in a way that Spags thinks of Shamari Connor as a slot corner.
CeeDee Lamb had his hand in the air before he even got down the field.
I'm open.
I'm open.
Dak. Over here.
Yeah, the line of scrimmage, he just looks at Dak and goes, you see this, right? You
Dak,
see this?
Dak, 27's on me.
And again, I hate doing this because it's not Shamari Connor's fault. It's not your fault.
It's not your fault, Shamari.
It's not your fault.
Don't do this, Sterling. It's not your fault, Shamari, okay? Spags shouldn't ask me to dunk on a 12-foot goal. I'm not doing it. And he shouldn't ask Shamari Connor to play slot because he also ain't doing it.
You guys, Missouri, we did it. We waited so darn long, but it is here. We are live. We are ready to roll in the Show Me State, and FanDuel is the place to go. It is the place to be. The Sterling stamp did not work last night. I told you should have faded me. Anytime I say a Sterling stamp, you should fade me. I'm like 0 for 6 on these things. The one I was less confident about, it hit. So we went 500. We went 500 last night. UConn beat Kansas, and Missouri choked against Notre Dame. Not ideal, but I had fun. You know why I had fun? Because I was doing it right there on FanDuel. And again, we're live in Missouri, so they're doing something fun for everyone out there. All this week, every customer gets a no-sweat bet every day. That's right. No matter what you're betting on, if it does not hit, you'll get bonus bets back to keep the action going. So, whether it's football, Thursday Night Football coming up tomorrow, whether it's basketball, you know me, I love NBA, I love college basketball, hockey, I don't know. Sorry, I can't help you there, but you're probably good at hockey, so you can also have fun betting on hockey. No matter what you are into, you can bet it all on an app that's safe, secure, and built for every kind of fan. The interface is quick, the payouts are fast, and the experience is top tier. Even for guys who are untechnologically advanced like myself, even I can figure out how to use the great app that is FanDuel. So, download FanDuel or visit FanDuel.com/Missouri to get started. FanDuel Sportsbook, now live in Missouri.
21 plus and present in Missouri. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Opt-in required each day. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Max refund $20. Restrictions apply, including token expiration. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com.
I will continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Sterling Holmes, Michael Darcy heading up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk some more about Chris Kleiman and Colin Klein coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. 4 o'clock press conference called there in Manhattan. Looking through some of the penalties, and we talk about cleaning some things up and cleaning it up and all of that stuff. But in these one-score games where the Chiefs are losing and committing a lot of penalties, of the 6 games, 4 of them, they have had more penalties and more penalty yards than the other team. Not surprising. Against the Chargers, they had 21 more yards of penalties. Not a whole lot. They lost by 6. Against the Jags, we know that was an egregious one. In all of those penalties, they had 9 more penalties than the Jags and 84 more penalty yards in the game, and they lost by 3. Buffalo, they had 53 more penalty yards than the Bills, lost by 7. Dallas, they had 69 more penalty yards, nice, than the Cowboys.
Not nice.
And they lost by 3. Denver, though, by the way, they had 78 fewer to the Broncos.
Riley Moss
and lost by 3.
Made up a lot of those on a couple of deep pass interference.
There were some of those for sure, and because they had the same number of penalties.
Yeah, it was the Riley Moss. Yeah. There was a 45-plus yarder in there.
Yeah, Riley Moss would not cook for me at home because he gets stuff burned all the time, and he would not be somebody that I would want to be a personal chef. But the Chiefs also had a couple of big ones in that game against Denver in the illegal formation that may have cost them a pretty big opportunity to go and win that game. But can you change it overnight? I don't know. Probably not. Can you overcome it? I don't know.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. But you got to. If you're going to be trying to make the postseason this year, you got to figure something out to get past the Houston Texans. If you can find a way to limit the pass rush to some degree. We'll find out tomorrow, or maybe there's a clarification even more, but maybe we find out tomorrow that Jalen Moore was really going to be the left tackle and not the right tackle. So,
well, here's this for you. Will Anderson's ranked as the second best pass rusher according to PFF, right?
True.
Edge rusher, he's number 2.
Yeah.
Well, that's good because, he's number 2, so you maybe want your best tackle going against him.
That's true.
And it's likely Danielle Hunter's 7th.
Oh, that's good.
So,
that's perfect.
Daniel
Harms, by the way, Daniel Harms tweeted out, a couple of reasons or explanations and saying, by the way, not in support of it, just saying this could be the reason. Wanya Morris has more experience at left tackle in Kansas City than anyone else on the roster, and it's Jalen Moore's audition for 2026 and beyond at right tackle.
Okay.
I can understand those. And I also agree with Daniel Harms in saying I'm not in favor of it. As he said, not in support of it, just saying here are some of the reasons. And even if that is the reason, not in favor of it because I don't think now's the time to be going, let's see if Jalen Moore can play right tackle. Because again, if you wanted the person that you felt like was the best left tackle on the roster when Josh Simmons went down, you would have played Wanya Morris there. But you didn't. You played Jalen Moore those 4 games at left tackle. We'll take a timeout, come back. More Zone next. All right, wrapping up this hour. One more hour to go. We get into the Kansas State Wildcats football program as 4 o'clock. There'll be a press conference in Manhattan. We'll talk about Chris Kleiman, legacy there in Manhattan, the timing of this whole thing, Colin Klein taking over, what it means for the program, where he could take K-State. And is this the move? I think the big question here is, one, how much is he going to be getting paid? Because you were paying $5.25 to Chris Kleiman. You weren't paying $10, $11 million like some other programs are, Missouri, for a head coach. So there's more money to go to your roster, in theory.
Sure.
How much are you paying Colin Klein? But the question is, can you get to a level closer to Texas Tech? Does Colin Klein open up that avenue? All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Michael Darcy. We head up until 2 o'clock, one more hour to go here on a Wednesday edition of the show. We've got the Best Up coming up at 6 o'clock after the program, and then Casey Take with Andy Sweeney, 7 o'clock. She's on the mic with Bethany Bowman at 9, and then the night shift with Michael Darcy at 10 o'clock. Did you know you got a show tonight at 10?
Well, we actually are going to be on from 7 to 9. Andy's not going to have a show tonight because of Kentucky football coach.
Oh, that makes
switch
sense.
up.
Okay, there you go. That
So
makes
night
that
shift will be
makes-
7 to 9 tonight.
Okay, so interesting. You Tanya Harding them. Okay, so good for you. You got the you got the gig. You happy about it? You took out you cut somebody off at the knee. You know, you took out his knee. You kneecapped him,
bit
and you
his
got the
kneecap.
gig. You got the gig. You happy? You happy? You proud of yourself? Huh?
Proud, no. Upset, also no.
Is that why you have that pipe back there?
Yes.
This pipe?
No, that's a pipe that you smoke out of. Not that pipe.
No, no.
913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. Let's talk about the big news of the day, and that is Chris Kleiman retiring. Coming up in 3 hours, the press conference there in Manhattan as K-State's Chris Kleiman, Gene Taylor will be at the podium along with the director of recruiting for the Kansas State Wildcats, because today is signing day. An interesting signing day for Kansas State, because making a potential coaching change, essentially, yes, a coaching change. Still say potential. I mean, people have said that they are reporting and also confirming that he's retiring. Colin Klein's the next head coach, but 4 o'clock will be the press conference. But making a coaching change on signing day, the early signing day window today, so it's not the last day, but the signing day window today, usually you don't see that, especially when it's like this guy's out, this guy's in. Like in a matter of like minutes, that it was Kleiman's retiring. Colin Klein is going to be the next head coach. Colin Klein is going to coach the offense and be the OC for A&M through the playoffs. So, you know, good for him. And then, you know, he'll be wearing the two hats because right now until December 19th, I mean, the playoffs don't start till then. Playoffs. They don't start till December 19th, so he's got some time to go and recruit, and transfer portal doesn't open until, you know, January 2nd and all of that stuff. But Chris Kleiman stepping down, and there's a few things to talk about from this topic with Chris Kleiman. And I wonder, like, we see the more newer school coaches that feel like they are, whether it's younger or younger in sort of personality and outgoing, offering some cutting jabs from time to time. And I'm thinking of, like, you know, Eli, where Chris Kleiman felt very old school, buttoned up. This is how we're going to play football, you know.
Even Lane
punch you in the
Kiffin.
face.
You're right. It doesn't have to just be age, because Lane Kiffin's only 7 years younger, but they're vastly
feels like
different.
he's a 25-year-old.
Sure.
Maybe acts like he's still a 25-year-old.
Maybe
as
looks
well.
for.
That would be a little bit older, apparently, to some of the
Not his
Lane
type.
files. So that might be that.
It's the DiCaprio theory.
The college graduates may have aged out. Of,
The DiCaprio method is
Lane's
what he's, I think, on.
sites. I'm not sure.
He doesn't recruit college graduates.
Yes.
We'll just say that.
But I would say somebody that has that sort of personality, just in general overall, seems to be more equipped and I would say more willing to tackle and handle what is going on in college football today, where it is a 365-day job. Year-round, 24/7, you're recruiting your own team. You're preparing for actual games. You're recruiting other players in high school. You're recruiting other players on other teams. You're recruiting boosters and alumni to give you money for the NIL. It is nonstop. It is an up at dawn, don't go to sleep, non-stop work with college football, and oh, by the way, then you get to coach a little football on the side. If you want to be a football coach that just simply is about, as you would say, Sterling, just all about ball, you just want to be a football coach, then you probably shouldn't go to college and do that.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be a coach in college because that's part of it, but it really ain't the big part. Go to the NFL and coach a position. Go to be a positional coach in the NFL, and you can just be a ball coach.
I will say, I think you might see some transition from this with the GMs. A lot of these teams now have GMs, and so it's not all on the head coach quite as much.
But it falls on the head coach if you can't win with the GM's players.
Correct.
So
at the end of the day, the head coach.
It's closer to Bill Belichick and Andy Reid with Andy in Philly and Belichick in New England, where it's like GM and also like it's like Andy Reid with Brett Veach now. It's like, oh, Andy Reid. Well, Brett Veach handles all that.
Sure.
That's
if
true,
you're a
but-
3-star, you're getting the GM.
Yeah.
If you're a 5-star, you're getting the head coach as well.
Mm-hmm. And so that may be a part of it because he's lamented what's happening in college football.
Sure.
He's not been happy about the roster limits going down to 105 from where they could be with all of the walk-ons. So he has been very vocal about that. And if you start to get sort of worn down by everything, then are you doing a disservice to the program? And are you just collecting a check until they fire you while going through the motions? Or do you turn down and pass up $5 million a year for the next couple of years to go through the motions if you don't feel you have it to step aside where the timing would be now to go get Colin Klein? Because if that was a part of it, then I think Chris Kleiman's reputation and legacy in Manhattan rises a couple of other rungs, like goes up even. If Chris Kleiman was thinking about, well, I don't know. I mean, I could collect a check for the next couple of years and get paid. I don't know if I have it. I don't know if I want to keep doing this. And if I retire now, they can get Colin Klein. We can get Colin Klein in here, my OC. I hired him. I think he's a superstar coach. I think the program is in better hands with him. I could collect my $10 million the next 2 years. Maybe now get a job with the athletic department in some way, be an ambassador or something, make 7 figures. Like, here's $1 million to just be around, Chris. But you're not going to get $10 million over the next couple of years. But it opens up the door for the transition to Colin Klein that I think K-State fans would have felt like, are you really going to be loosey with the football for the third time with somebody who went to K-State and you feel like could elevate that program to the next level? Timing didn't work out with Brad Underwood. Timing didn't work out with Venables. Timing's not going to work out with Colin Klein because you got Chris Kleiman. And he's going to go to South Florida or somebody else, and he's going to be awesome, and he's going to be there for a couple, 3 years, and then a big-time gig's going to open up. Clemson's going to open up because Dabo walks away. And Clemson goes, we want Colin Klein at South Florida. He's our guy. And K-State goes, well, no, we want Colin Klein too. And Clemson goes, we're going to pay him $12.5, $13 million to come here and coach at Clemson. Boy, I do love K-State, but it may be better to go to Clemson. Just as an example. But now you don't have the strike three with the timing of somebody that you feel like can come back to Manhattan and carry you to the next level. Because how old is Colin Klein? Was he like 35? Was he 15?
36.
36? Man, nailed it. It's like 36 years old, right? So you would think if you're Kansas State, you would think and you would hope if Colin Klein is the right gig, or is the right guy for the gig, that you're closer to Bill Snyder in saying this guy's going to be here for the long term and can elevate the program because he's 36 years old and fresh, new, energetic, getting out and tackling, understanding and walking in with eyes wide open of what the job entails now. Chris Kleiman, the job changed on him.
Sure.
He signs up to be at Kansas State for a certain job as a college football coach that the landscape completely shifts. It's a totally different job now in college football. So him walking away, I get it. Colin Klein walks in knowing what the job entails, knowing that you've got to be senatorial across the state. You've got to be somebody that is fundraising. You've got to be somebody that is willing to take the dinner with the booster. Oh, I have a date night with my wife. Yeah, but he just flew in town on the private jet. Honey, we're going to go out to dinner tomorrow night. All right, I got to take this dinner. Shaking hands, selling your program to high school kids, selling your program to college kids, selling your program to your own players, raising the money, spending the money, being smart about it. That's all the new age college football. And, oh, by the way, coaching it. A&M's offense is awesome. Kansas State's offense was awesome with Colin Klein as the offensive coordinator. I'd love to see what he does with Avery Johnson. You got to keep him, so you got to pay some money because now you're transitioning. But also Avery Johnson was there. His freshman year was Colin Klein's last year, right? Wouldn't 2023? Yeah, 2023 was Avery Johnson's freshman year. 2024, sophomore year last year. He's a junior this year. So Colin Klein's last year, Will Howard's last year before he went to Ohio State. Colin Klein as the OC. So he's worked with Avery. People were talking about maybe Avery going with, following Colin. So I think there's that relationship there. I think he'll be able to keep him. And let's see what he can do with him. But I think Chris Kleiman, as the years go by, I think he'll be more appreciated. And if Colin Klein goes and succeeds and is doing well, and K-State is, Big 12 championships and competing every year to do that, I think Chris Kleiman's reputation will continue to exceed, because what Chris Kleiman did, what Ron Prince could not do, was say K-State is more than a one-coach program. Ron Prince gets there and there's not good enough. Bill Snyder had to come back and help the program now. So it's only Bill Snyder. Kansas State is Bill Snyder. That's it. So who are you going to get that can go and win besides Bill Snyder? You go and get Chris Kleiman? He wins a Big 12 championship in 2022, proving that you don't have to be Bill Snyder at Kansas State to win a championship. And if you win a Big 12 championship, you're in the college football playoff.
I agree, but I don't think the 10-year – I think if it was after 2022, it's fair to say that since then it's been a disappointment for K-State. I'm not saying that he wasn't a good head coach. I'm not saying K-State fans shouldn't appreciate Kleiman, but he's very Eli Drinkwitz, and I love Eli, and I'm a Mizzou guy, but I'm not trying to just do it. I just think it's the easy comparison here. So he's been there 7 years at K-State, or was there 7 years at K-State, had a winning percentage of .614. Eli's been 6 years at Mizzou, winning percentage of .622. I mean, like they're eerily similar. He has one double-digit win season, 10. Missouri with Eli has 2. I'm not sitting here saying Eli is this. I like Eli a lot, but it's not like we're talking with some great legacy that Eli's built. Like, we like Eli. We think there's still something there, but if he were to retire right now, I don't think we're sitting here going, what a great legacy Eli Drinkwitz had. We'll have, what a nice stretch.
Well, Eli didn't win an SEC didn't win a conference championship, and I think that,
sure,
he's in the SEC as opposed to the Big 12.
I'm going to say it's a lot harder.
Yeah, but still, it had been a decade since K-State had won. They won They won the Big 12 in 2003 and 2012.
But would we not agree that the last 3 seasons for K-State has been, the last 2 specifically, have been a pretty big disappointment?
Yeah, I think going into the Houston game last year versus right now, you could say from that point on, you've been pretty disappointed in what you thought you were going to get with Kansas State. I'd say Kansas State fans probably pretty disappointed from that game until now, because what was the record last year before that Houston game? So they're 6-6 now. Going into Houston, they were 7-1. So they were 7-1 in the Big 12 championship hunt and the college football playoff hunt.
Yeah, 2-3.
Yeah, and they go 2-3. So he is 8-9 since that win over Kansas by 2. The comeback win in the fourth quarter, beating Kansas, sitting 7-1, and getting ready for Houston on the road and Arizona State at home. And it's been disappointing since then. But coming off a Big 12 championship season in 2022, and then in 2023 getting to a 9-4 record again and being 6-3 in the conference. But then the college football playoff era there in 24, it's like, okay, now there's a whole lot more on the line. There's more at stake in some of these games. And it was disappointing. And maybe that's where the 2 or the 8 and 9 comes in for Chris Kleiman and Kansas State, since that is the money, the NIL, the replenishing the roster, putting NFL players back on the roster that you lost to the NFL. Because, I mean, look, there were some pretty damn good players that went and played for Chris Kleiman. I mean, Deuce Vaughn, Will Howard, Giddens, FAU, Jacob Parrish and Ben Sinnott.
Yeah.
Those are guys. Did I mention Cooper Beebe? I don't know that I did.
Yeah,
but
he's been great.
He's had some NFL players. As of late, though, this year, it doesn't seem like there's many there. So going and replenishing it. And maybe that's where he says this is the perfect time to step away. Somebody come in that's more energetic. And like Eli, when you talk about, Eli took the Missouri job and the landscape has changed on Eli. But as the landscape changed, Eli was on the forefront of saying, we're attacking this.
Yes.
This is where it's going, and we are going to, in fact, we're going to Jefferson City to attack it from there. And I'm going to be up there trying to help pass legislation in the state to help us in Missouri at the university to pay high school kids NIL money if they come to Missouri. That's how much I'm going. Dabo's pissed off. He's going to quit if they start paying kids. Chris Kleiman wasn't hating it and fighting against it publicly, but wasn't happy about some of the things that were happening. So I think there's a different level of approaching it. And it's not a surprise that guys like, Nick Saban and others have said, it's just time to simply walk away. It's not the game that I remember. College basketball, we've seen that, as late as well. Tony Bennett and Jay Wright and Coach K and Roy and a lot of others that are like, look, this is different now. And it's not the college basketball or the sport that I remember. It's a young man's game. The next question is going to be, does this transition open up and create more excitement, generate more buzz, get more of a backing to where K-State boosters, alumni, money is going to say, okay, yeah, I was disappointed in Chris Kleiman 6-6. And if he'd have come ask me to write another check, I'm a little more trepidatious about that.
Yeah.
I'm not as excited to write that check. Colin Klein is coming and talking to me. How much you need? In fact, I'll just go ahead and sign it. Here you go. Let's go. Let's get now, I'm not saying they've got a what's-his-face down at Texas Tech or they got a crumble cookie at BYU. They got crumble cookies at Virginia Tech today via James Franklin serving them up. But, do you have enough of the pieces there to go and say, hey, $2 million that guy, $3 million that guy, get everybody in rallying. Anybody that had a pocketbook or was willing to do that and said, I'd give a little bit more, but I'm just not overly excited about where the program's heading right now. I bet you are now.
Yeah.
And that's the new age of football. If you can't get the money, you can't compete. If you get the money, you've got a better chance at competing. It doesn't guarantee that you'll compete.
Sure.
But I will guarantee you that you won't without the money.
I think this was, again, about best case scenario for K-State. I think that it was time for Kleiman. I think he had one more year, really, of grace before it started to get into the, okay, if he goes 6-6 again or 7, and whatever it be, you're sitting here going, it's time. He clearly is, it's passed him by, right? You're right. He can still now look back with some fond memories of Kleiman. And again, I think he was a good head coach. I'm not saying he was bad, but you're right. The landscape changed, and it didn't seem like it fit his style very well. Where, again, Missouri went 8-4, not trying to compare it to them, but Missouri 8-4 was very disappointing. And we see Eli, this new age of college football, he's bought in. He's all in. And so you can at least see donors, alumni, we're still thrilled with Eli. We're disappointed, but we still see the outlook looking bright. I don't know if that was the same thing at K-State with Kleiman. I think you saw a downturn where you go, I don't know if we see it getting better under him. Colin Klein, to me, was, again, that is the name that is going to generate a lot of buzz, fond memories. Now, you're going to have to do something, because if you go 5-7 next year, well, it's going to be harder to get that buzz around. Yeah, it's his first year, but it's a what have you done for me lately? You don't want to get Scott Frost. You don't want to have that at Nebraska where you bring in the name, you bring in the guy, you love what he did, and all of a sudden that legacy is no longer what it once was because he comes and does nothing. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be Scott Frost. I think we can clearly see that he has a good mind for football.
He's not Scott Frost. He hasn't won a national championship.
But he has a good mind for football. We see that Colin Klein, it wasn't just, it's an alumni. It's not Kim English, where it was.
I don't think Kim English would be good at Kansas State football. I'm going to go ahead and say it right now.
For basketball words, you're sitting here going, well, he's an alumni. We think he might be a hot prospect. Well,
I was fine if they would have hired Kim English when they moved on from Konzo.
But now look what we're seeing so far. It was good for a little bit, and it's tapered off.
I mean, he's at Providence. I don't know. Would he have left their best shooter wide open last night? I don't know.
Point remains.
Would he have left Wade Turner? Is that Texas A&M's player last year?
That was Texas A&M's player last year.
Would he have put Marcus Warwick, one of your worst defenders, on their best player, and then Marcus Warwick gets lost on defense?
Would he also have the recruiting class?
Maybe.
The point
Dennis Gates is recruiting his ass off,
and that's what you have to do. But
he's getting his ass coached off too.
The point remains to me is you get a year.
By the other coaches.
Colin Klein gets a year to try and figure it out where the excitement level is palpable. It is high. All the K-State fans I have talked with have been thrilled by this. I have not seen one person say, I don't know. They've all been
I don't know, Jim.
I don't know, Sterling. I don't know. They've all been thrilled. And so you have 1 year to figure it out before the excitement wears off.
And I don't know what Colin Klein is ultimately going to be. I know Stan Weber thinks that Colin Klein is a superstar coach ready just to get the opportunity, whoever gets. And I will say that if Eli were to go somewhere, Colin Klein was somebody that I would have said would be on the list that I would want to be the head coach. John Summerall, he's at Florida. Eric Norris. Like, these are the names that you're seeing now because even BYU's coach is not going to Penn State.
Yeah.
Like, Indiana's coach is not going to Penn State. Missouri's coach, whether wanted or not, is not going to Penn State. So it's a little bit different landscape now. And so now it's like, okay, how much are you going to pay Colin Klein versus how much would you have had to pay? Like, I don't even know what the, I'd have to look at the contracts. I think what Summerall's making, because I think like Lane Kiffin's making $13-14 million.
Yeah.
It's crazy what they're making. And if Colin Klein gets there and it's a prove it first, look, hey, we're going to give you what we're paying Chris Klein. We're getting $5 million. Missouri's paying Eli $11 million. So that's $6 million less for Colin Klein. That can go to the roster, right? That can be given that way. So are you better off with a $5 or $6 million coach that can then invest more in the roster, or a $11-12 million coach and less money there because you're simply retaining your guy? I don't know. But I know that Colin Klein seems like the perfect spot and the perfect guy to return home and to take K-State to the next level. And I've heard a couple of the, he doesn't have head coaching experience. Like Eric Norris was at North Texas. Summerall was at Tulane, right? You see these guys that are hired. They've taken programs and they've proven it. Goulash, whatever his name is, at South Florida, that fella, they've had programs. But I would say, and I am not saying this is who Colin Klein's going to be, but Ryan Day never was a head coach, and he's got a national championship. Kirby Smart was never a head coach, and he's got a national championship. Dan Lanning was never a head coach.
So hire someone who doesn't have head coaching experience is what you're saying.
Well,
that's the move.
Here's the thing. There's somebody out there without head coaching experience right now that's going to win a national championship in college football.
Is that correlation or causation?
Yes. That's right. Look, there's somebody, but find him. Go find that person. Because Dan Hurley was out there, and UConn hired him, and now he's one of the best coaches in America, and talks crazy bleep to the fans right next to Bill Self, while KU's best players at the free throw line missing a free throw.
Yeah.
In Flory misses a free throw, and Dan Hurley looks at the crowd and goes, "Brick City!" Bad coach! But that guy was there, right? You didn't know he was going to go win a national championship? Dude at Florida was the head coach of San Francisco. Now he's got a national championship, right? There are guys out there. There is a coach right now that is a coordinator, is an assistant coach that will win a national championship in football. one day. Is it 5 years from now? 3 years from now? I don't know. Didn't take Ryan Day that long. He was at Ohio State. Didn't take Kirby Smart that long. He was at Georgia. I get that. But Dan Lanning went to Oregon, and it was like, let's roll, right? That guy was ready to go because he was viewed as the energetic young guy, is going to be a recruiting stalwart. The kids are going to love him. He's energetic. He's vibrant. He's electric. People are attracted to him, right? Just want to be around him. And that's Colin Klein. So,
and he's a good coach.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. And that's Colin Klein. I'm pumped for Kansas State fans.
They had the best night. Or the best morning of the three local schools.
Yeah, because Kansas fans not too happy. Missouri fans not too happy this morning waking up after last night's basketball losses.
Correct. They both lost in basketball.
K-State's going Bowling Green who? That is
Bowling Green.
Bowling Green, not worry about it. Let's go bowl with Colin Klein and get this green, baby, and go win some games. That's what you do. I'm happy for K-State fans because this is something that would have been another disappointment if it was a Brad Underwood or Brent Venables somewhere else elevating those programs and going, damn, could have been us. If Colin Klein's the guy that people think he can be, well, it is you now. We'll take a timeout. More Zone next.
Lightning Crashes. Remember that song? By the band Live. And speaking of live, FanDuel Sportsbook is live in Missouri. We are ready to roll in the Show Me State. So, for this week, because FanDuel is live, every customer gets a no-sweat bet every day. That's right, little something for everyone out there. No matter what you're betting on, if it does not hit, you'll get your bonus bets back to keep the action going. Whether it's football, basketball, hockey, or whatever you are into, you can bet it all on an app that's safe, secure, and built for every kind of fan. Sterling Stamp didn't work last night. Let's go back to the drawing board. Tonight, I'm going to do it. It's crazy. No Sterling Stamp. What I'm going to ride with on FanDuel is the over SMU Vanderbilt college basketball, the ACC SEC Men's Challenge. I like the over in this game. Two teams that score a lot of points. SMU averaging 92 points per game. Vandy 97.9. I know it's not the best competition, but they get up and down the floor. So I'm going over on that, and I'm doing it right there on FanDuel. The interface is quick, the payouts are fast, and the experience is top tier. So what are you waiting for? Download or visit FanDuel.com/Missouri to get started.
21 plus and present in Missouri. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Opt-in required each day. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Max refund $20. Restrictions apply, including token expiration. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Sterling Holmes, Michael Darcy heading up until 2 o'clock. Talking a lot in the previous segment about Chris Kleiman and now Colin Klein. 4 o'clock today, press conference, Gene Taylor, Chris Kleiman. Look, Chris Kleiman was emotional after the Utah loss. And I'd have to imagine, looking back now, I think there's context added to that. I don't think this was a decision that all of a sudden Chris Kleiman woke up on Monday going, man, I don't know. For the first time in my entire life, should I retire? I can't imagine that's what's happened in the last 48 hours, right? So I think context added. I think it does change a little bit about that press conference after the Utah game, because I think the emotion sort of coming to the surface of that loss, what that game meant, sort of what the season overall had been, sort of the encapsulation of the entire season in that particular game of just like opportunities that were lost and some giveaways in big spots. And knowing maybe he was a game away from being done as a head football coach.
Yeah.
So I think there's some context added that, I wasn't, I was pretty critical of him when he said, that I think I've earned some respect around here. I'm like, I don't know that after losing that game is the time to it's okay.
Pull
to
that card.
I mean, I get it being emotional, of a loss. What the old saying in sports is like, you should be crying at the end of the season. Either you won it or you lost it. Either way, you should have that much passion for it, that losing it hurt you that bad or winning it meant that much to you. And both coaches shed tears in the press conference after that game. Utah's head coach, Kyle Whittingham, he shed a couple of tears and then finding a way to come back and win because their college football playoff chances were still alive at that point. But I think this is probably something that Chris Kleiman had been thinking about for some time now. And I think when you get, with today's college football, if you've been coaching for a long time and you aren't, one of the coaches that has been a head coach since 2020 or 2021 when things started to shift, the landscape is so different than what you coached. So I think if you're at that point and you're not overall loving waking up every day and doing what you're doing and you're thinking about, should I hang it up? Am I really going to be doing this, some more? Then I think you got to hang it up. I think once you start thinking about that, because you're going to get lapped by the younger, more energetic guy. I just think that's the reality of it. And I hope it's not a health reason for Chris Kleiman. I hope he's fully healthy and just says, you know what? You know how many people that make $5 million a year retire at 58? You make that much money as Chris Kleiman's made in his life, retiring at 60? Yeah, okay. Sounds about right. College football coach, hold on. He's not resigning. He's retiring. Like he's retiring. He's not coaching anymore. The first thing you start to wonder is there something health going on here? I hope that's not the case with Chris Kleiman. And it might just be, he hasn't really enjoyed what the game has become. And the old saying is, if you want to be a ball coach, go to the NFL, because it's so tough to do in today's landscape. But Colin Klein is walking in knowing what it's going to take to get those guys. And here's what's great for Kansas State. When Texas A&M plays in the college football playoff, and they always have the video up in the booth and they show like the DC or the offensive coordinator and like, oh, there's blah blah blah, and he's calling the plays, whatever. When Texas A&M is playing and Marcel Reed's out there doing his thing and they have the video and the camera in there, because with the Missouri-Arkansas game, they had it on Kirby Moore.
Sure.
Like what for? Whatever. But they'll have it, and there's Colin.
He's calling a run.
There's, for Bo, there's Colin Klein, Kansas State's head coach. The head coach at Kansas State. So every time they're playing a playoff game and Texas A&M is out there doing their thing offensively, oh, hey, recruits out there, transfers out there, look what he's doing with Texas A&M's offense. I mean, in 2023, K-State averaged almost 40 points per game with Colin Klein as the OC. They had some damn fine players.
Sure.
But they averaged. Not that they just got to 40 from time to time. They averaged. They were the 10th highest scoring offense in America.
Now, what you're hoping is he can handle the entire responsibility
right.
of play calling and head coach. because that is a lot in college football. That's a
Yeah.
lot for the NFL, but even more so in college
Well,
football.
Andy doesn't have to do that. Matt Nagy, he puts all that together. So it's great. Yes, it is a lot to handle. And we see, in college, though, we see it way more often than in the NFL.
Sure.
I think. Because Brent Venables is out there going crazy and calling the plays on defense and screaming and yelling and all of that stuff. And he's also, as the coach. Eli tried it, for a little bit.
And I think it was too much. I mean, we saw.
gave it away.
I think we saw too many mishaps on the coaching side more so than the play calling side. I think we saw so many of the late to the play calling, which is shocking. It's just too much for some guys.
Yeah, Petrino was out there against Mizzou calling all the plays, offensively. So there are guys that will be doing it, and then I expect that Colin Klein will be doing it. In fact, if I was K-State, I'd want him to do it.
Well, yeah, you want him to at least try because he clearly knows what he's doing as a OC.
Yeah. How do you think ultimately? I weighed in on it, but how do you think ultimately Chris Kleiman is remembered at Kansas State?
As a bridge. I think he was the bridge from Snyder to Colin Klein. I think you'll look back and say he was a good head coach, not great, a good head coach. I think you'll see him be the transition from the old era of college football into the new, and we'll look back and say that was when it started to go downhill for K-State, was once it started to get into the new age of NIL and transfer portal that it passed him by. And then you'll look back almost with a Gilmesh appreciation and he understood that and gave the reins to someone who K-State fans think can be the guy. It's like when Gilmesh retired and turned that money down and gave it back to the Royals, we still remember. I remember that. I want to give him credit all the time because I'm like, who does that? Again, he had money on his contract. Maybe he was getting fired that we did not know. I would have been surprised if they would have canned him after this.
But I see you're Chris Kleiman, yeah.
So for me, I'm sitting here going, well, he left money on the table to leave K-State in better hands. So you look back, I think, on that part with reverence more so than even what he actually did performance-wise at K-State.
Kind of a cross-sport comparison. I would almost compare Kleiman to Roy Williams at KU. No one's going to look at Kleiman leaving K-State and be upset. He got you a conference championship. And I think if, Klein ends up working out, he is their Bill Self, or at least that's the hope.
Yeah. That's very...
Two national, so he's calling. So you're calling for two national titles at K-State.
I don't think they're ever going to get there, but I do think that
you.
It's something where Klein might be there for the next decade, especially given his age.
Yeah, odds say in today's football that no, but also Kansas State is not Auburn.
Yeah,
it's not Florida. It's not Mississippi State. That views and sees like, okay, well, 6-6, 7-5, well, you're gone, you're fired. You got to get out of here because it means more here. The worry is, and this is always a worry when you go down this route. The worry is bringing somebody back, and if it doesn't work, what happens then? Because Scott Frost today in Nebraska and Nebraska fans versus Scott Frost 10 years ago with Nebraska fans, completely different conversation.
It'll take 10 more years for him to get back to remember Scott Frost, the player, not the coach.
I hated that Missouri hired Kim Anderson because, one, I didn't think it would work, but two, the younger generation of basketball fans will only know Kim Anderson as a failed basketball.
They shouldn't. He was a scapegoat.
But my point being, they're not gonna. They weren't around when he played and was right next to Norm for 3 decades.
Sure.
They'll remember him as Kim Anderson. I don't care what he did then. He was an awful basketball coach. Missouri sucked. I was at Mizzou at the time, and all I had to deal with was that basketball team. To heck with that guy.
Yeah.
It sucks when you bring those. Barry Odom, was a Mizzou guy.
That might be the one.
Didn't work out. He goes somewhere else and he's more successful. That's a concern there, and it's a worry because Colin Klein is so revered there. But I think it's going to work. We'll see. We'll take a timeout. More Zone next. I wrap up the show, but don't worry, there'll be plenty of more coverage and conversation about Kansas State, Chris Kleiman, Colin Klein, the Kansas City Chiefs. Any other K sound that you want to come up with?
Calvin Klein.
There you go. It can start with a C, but sound like a K.
Now, that should be an NIL deal. Colin Klein should get Calvin Klein for K-State.
You just want to see him in his underwear.
No!
He is a hot coaching candidate.
Your words. Not mine.
Yeah.
Why were you thinking that? I was thinking like jeans or sweaters or
See, I don't
lots
associate
of outerwear.
I don't associate Calvin Klein with anything but the undergarments.
That's a you.
That's what they're known for.
Yeah.
I think these jeans are Calvin Klein.
Yeah. Boy, I love these.
Boom. Calvin Klein.
I love these Uggs gloves I'm wearing. Well, no, Uggs has gloves, right? Well, I don't know that I associate Uggs with gloves there, Calvin, Colin.